significant other attitude you forgot to rinse off your dinner plate last night. You stepped on your kid's logo. The cat scratched you as you walked out the door. Car battery won't jump. I mean, whatever. You're having a bad day. I just want you to remember that at least you didn't wake up, go through all of that, get to work, strap in for the day, and then be told that your football team's name is now the Commanders. The Commanders. Your kid may have thrown up on the floor. When you put the trash in the trash can fell over. You had to pick up trash off the ground. Your neighbor cut the grass at 6 this morning because he's a psychopath. Whatever. Just remember that no matter how bad it got yesterday, no matter how awful your day was this morning to get it started, you didn't get informed by your historic franchise that your name is now the Commanders. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. This is ESPN Upstate. Hello, Upstate South Carolina. Hello, America. Hello, world. It is great to be with you. I am the aforementioned Rob Brown, which makes the title of the show appropriate, I suppose. Filling in for the great one, Lonzo, a wee bit under the weather today, so back to the house for the Alpha and the Omega. My man Owen Watterson once again dons the gray beanie to sit in with us. What's up, fella?
Feeling good today, Rob. I know Lonzo isn't feeling that great, but we're here. We're here. It's hump day.
I talked to Zoe this morning, and Zoe was like, everything hurts and I'm dying. I was like, you know what you should do is not be here. You should just not be here. And I got to tell you guys, Lonzo's like me. I don't take 6 days. I don't take sick days. I think I legit have like 35 sick days banked right now over the last 2 years because I don't take sick days. If I don't feel good, I'll just work from home, right? I'll set the Comrex up and I'll literally lay on the couch and do the show. For me to take a sick day, I've taken one since I got here. And the one sick day I took was because the night before, I went unconscious and knocked the bottom half of my front 2 teeth off and had to go get them fixed. And I used a sick day for that. Lonzo's a tank, right? In the world of D&D, he's like a paladin fighter, all right? Yes, I am not a virgin, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. God, I hope my mom's not listening after I said that. I just realized she might be. Listen, here's the deal. Lonzo's a tank. When Lonzo goes, oh, dude, I'm not feeling it. He's not feeling it. But the great one will be back with us at some point. We're glad to have Owen called in, the relief, the lefty from the bullpen, to step in and carry us through the next 3 hours. And I am very excited to have him along for the ride. A lot of stuff to get to, a lot of stuff to talk about on the radio show today. And because there's so much of it, I want to just jump right into the lunch breakdown, if you don't mind. Owen, let's get the show started.
Let's do lunch.
This is a very nutritious lunch. All the food groups are represented.
You guys hear?
What in the wide
They're saying they can't hear this mic on stream. Utility?
The lunch breakdown. The 3 things you need to know before we go start talking sports with your friends, family, coworker, or the dog. Whoever you spend your lunch break with, when you gather around the lunch table today, these will be the items that you are discussing. By the way, Josh, let me know if in the stream if the mic is better. I think we got everything worked out. Join us on the Facebook stream at facebook.com/ESPN Upstate, twitter.com/ESPN Upstate, or search The Rob Brown Show on YouTube. Find my channel, and you can watch the show there live. Awesome. Appreciate it. You can also, by the way, download the Odyssey app, AUDACY. Go to the bottom, click the little magnifying glass that says Explore, enter ESPN Upstate, click the heart button at the top, and you can stream the station live round and round and round the clock. Plus, right under the play button, you're going to see the beautiful, shining face of one Mark Ryan. And then next to him is my face.
And if you click on my face, it'll take you to the podcast page where every day after the show, we podcast all 3 hours of the show edited down, and we post a handful of highlight clips from the day so you can listen to whatever it is that you may have missed. Item number 1 on the lunch breakdown today. We're going to get into this quite a bit, this Brian Flores thing, so I'm going to hang on to that for item number 3. We'll start in the world of baseball. Yesterday, we had yet another meeting between the Major League Baseball owners and the Major League Players Association. Jeff Passan, who has kind of been the voice of baseball in all this, he's really been the guy that's been at the forefront of all of this. I'm going to read you the 2 tweets that Jeff Passan put up regarding the meetings yesterday. He said, and I quote, "The meeting between the Major League Baseball Players Association and MLB is over. Little progress was made. The on-time opening of spring training at this point is in grave danger and, frankly, would take a miraculous deal coming together to rescue. A delay feels inevitable." And then, just about 2 hours later, he tweeted out, "There is no deal. There was nev ... Oh, hell, you know the drill by now." When you get Jeff Passan, who, as far as I can tell, kind of prides himself in his professionalism when he's reporting, right? If you go read Jeff Passan's timeline, there's not a lot of jokey ha-ha in there, right? Like, it's pretty much, here's a baseball story, and here's a baseball story, and here's my opinion on a baseball story, and here's another baseball story. When Jeff Passan hits us with a, there is no deal, there was nev ... Oh, hell, you know the drill by now, you know he's frustrated. All right. You know he's frustrated. Passan's frustrated. And the rest of baseball is frustrated now because we're pretty much at the point, we told you, that baseball had to get to a point by now. Baseball had to get to a point by now, like the first week of February, to get a deal done if they were ever going to get into a point where the regular season wasn't threatened. We've already threatened spring training. At this point, it feels inevitable that spring training will be delayed. Now, what's going to be interesting is if the players agree to a shorter spring training in order to start the regular season. Remember, in the COVID restricted year, they still wanted a full spring training and a delayed start and a shortened season. Major League Baseball's owners lost a lot of money because of that, because the players still wanted their full paychecks. Now we're at a point where we might be doing that, and there's no COVID to blame it on. It's just the money. Just the money. We'll go deeper into what those meetings yesterday meant later on in the show. Item number 2 on the lunch breakdown. A lot of smoke coming up yesterday out of the University of Michigan about the potential, and now it seems, according to some reports, depending on who you trust, looking at you, Tom Brady's retirement rumors from Adam Schefter and Ann Rappaport, depending on who you trust, it's looking more and more like the head coach of the University of Michigan, Jim Harbaugh, may take a job in the NFL with the Minnesota Vikings. Harbaugh is reportedly flying in for an in-person interview with the Vikings later on this afternoon. Now, this does not mean that Harbaugh is committed to the National Football League. It does not mean that this is to sign an offer, to even take an offer, to even really interview. It may just be a feeling out process. However, there is the chance that Jim Harbaugh is just using this as leverage against the University of Michigan, right? Hey, I got you guys into a playoff this year. We got it handed to us, but we were in the playoffs. What do you say? You bump up that paycheck by, I don't know, a 0, right? Why don't you throw me an extra 0 on the end of that paycheck, and let's see where we go. And if you don't want to do that, that's cool, but just know that the National Football League and the Minnesota Vikings are right there waiting for me. They're right there waiting for me. They have invited me out. I'm heading on up to Minnesota today. I'm going to go grab me some coffee and donuts with the Vikings, eh? You know, maybe we'll head up to St. Paul, take in that U.S. men's national soccer game this evening. I'm just saying, Wolvies, if you'd like me to stick around instead of heading to the league, you bump a 0 onto the back end of that paycheck and I can make it happen. This does not mean that Jim Harbaugh is taking the job or even that the job will be his to be taken. But here's why it's interesting to Panthers fans. Because aside from that report, another report came out from Chris Balas of thewolverine.com that says that Michigan has pegged Matt Rule as one of their top 3 choices to replace Jim Harbaugh if he does make the jump. Ballas wrote at at thewolverine.com, quote, sources have also confirmed that Carolina Panthers coach Matt Rule is indeed on Michigan AD Ward Manuel's wish list to replace Harbaugh should the Wolverines make an external hire. Rule is coming off a pair of 5-win seasons at Carolina, but he had great success at Temple, including a pair of 10-win seasons. He led Baylor to an 11-win season in his 3rd year, but finished the 2019 season with losses to Oklahoma and Georgia. Again, smoke in the air, right? And fire in the sky. We don't know. We don't know if Harbaugh's taken the Minnesota job, if this is leverage to get more money out of Michigan. We don't know if this is a for sure report that Rule is on the 80s list. We don't know if he is on the list, where on the list he is. He might be 5th, 6th, 7th. It may not matter. But Matt Rule is only about 70% of the way through the hiring process. They've got an offensive coordinator now. They brought in, as we reported yesterday, a new offensive line coach in James Campen. And special teams coordinator Chris Tabor is in line now as well. By the way, if you missed the show yesterday, James Campen, highly respected offensive line coach. In fact, NFL Films put out about an 8-minute little piece on him. And in it, Aaron Rodgers had nothing but good things to say. That playing behind his offensive line, he felt as secure in the pocket as he's ever felt before. So here's what's interesting, right? Matt Rule's got an offensive coordinator in Ben McAdoo, who, criticism aside, and we talked a little bit about this, I believe, back on Monday, or maybe it was last Friday, I don't remember. Ben McAdoo has been widely mocked as the pick because of his failure as the head coach of the New York Giants. However, Ben McAdoo was actually very successful as the offensive coordinator for the New York Giants, right? On top of that, Ben McAdoo had a list of names of quarterbacks that he wanted to draft at different spots that he got passed up on. On that list was Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen. The Giants and the Jets passed on all 3 of those guys in favor of Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold, right? Ben McAdoo's got an eye for quarterbacks, and he's a good offensive coordinator, statistically speaking, from his past. James Campen, the O-line coach they brought in, very highly respected offensive line coach who's got great numbers to back it up. And Chris Tabor. Tabor had like 4 other interviews around the league for a special teams coordinator position before he accepted the job with Carolina without even interviewing the rest, which means Rule said something to him that made him go, I like this. I like this. So he's only looking for a defensive line coach now, and he's effectively done. And, of course, we know that David Tepper at this point is throwing his cards in with Matt Rule for at least one more season. That being said, if Michigan loses its head coach, there's not much more of a high-profile job in college football than heading to Ann Arbor. And if Matt Rule is looking and go, if I won 10 games in 2 years, Panthers fans pretty much hate me. He can't go to Hornets games right now because the chance of fire Rule get louder than the chance of go Hornets or buzz up or whatever they say, right? If he is done with it, over, I can't take my kid to a damn basketball game without the city chanting fire Rule in my own face. Michigan's about as good of a landing spot as he could ask for if he wants to go back to college, even with things pointed in the right direction for Carolina. I'm not saying they are. I'm saying if you're Matt Rule, you got to look at it and say, we're better off now than we were 6 weeks ago. You're not going to have a better opportunity than the University of Michigan, especially if the Panthers fail again this year.
You know, I've seen this report about him potentially taking the Michigan job if Harbaugh leaves has been floating for, I think, a little over a month now. And here's the reason I don't really believe it, Rob. You know, you just alluded to it. Michigan, at the end of the day, if Harbaugh leaves, is one of the most high-profile jobs in college football. They just made the college football playoff.
Top five.
Right. And if that's the case, why do they want Matt Rule? I get he's an NFL coach. He had success at the college level, but at some level, he's shown you his
End
true.
of sentence. That's why he's had success at the college level. That's the argument. Everywhere he's been at college, he's done fine. Taking 3 years, turn it around. What can he do if he doesn't need 3 years to turn it around? Because Michigan's already there, right? It's a gamble, but as far as with all the other big schools having coaches in place right now, Matt Rule looks like one of the most attractive available college candidates right now, especially if he wants out of Charlotte, because you might be able to get him in a steal, right?
That's a fair point. Yeah, the price will most likely be cheap, but here's another thing about it. I mean, the Big Ten right now is not what the Big 12 was when he was at Baylor. I mean, his only competition for the most part was OU when he was at Baylor. When you're in the Big Ten and you have to play in that big game at the big house and at Ohio State every other year, it's not the same. I'm not sure that he can have any kind of success against Ohio State at first. I don't know. I don't like the fit, but I also don't like Matt Rule in Charlotte. So if he wants to go, more power to him.
All right. Item number 3 on the lunch breakdown. And I'm going to obviously tell you that it's what happened with Brian Flores yesterday. This, ladies and gentlemen, I don't necessarily have an eye for the dramatic. Okay, yes, I do, but that's not the point. I don't love to exaggerate things on air. All right. I don't love, you hear a lot of radio show hosts that go, this is the biggest story that you've ever seen out of the National Football League. And it's like the Panthers are going to wear white socks instead of blue next year, right? Ladies and gentlemen, this Brian Flores story might be the biggest story in the National Football League in decades. And I'm not doing a radio thing here. I'm telling you yesterday, when my phone ding with the news about Brian Flores, I got in trouble with the girlfriend because I had just gotten home from work, right? She's sitting on the couch. She's got stuff to do. She needs me to come home to take care of some stuff so she can go out and leave and do stuff. And I'm sitting on the couch and I'm like watching the videos and reading the quotes and reading the text from Bill Belichick and all that. And she's like, are you not going to pay attention to me right now? And I was like, no, because this story, this is ground shaking in the National Football League. I took the hit because of how big this story was, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on it when we come back. Owens at the helm on the 1s and 2s. My name is Rob Brown. Stick around, ladies and gentlemen, the Brian Flores story and what I think about it next. This is ESPN Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show. Listen on your computer and tablet at ESPNUpstate.com.
AutomotiveMap.com presents your ESPN Upstate Sports Center update, powered by The Score. South Carolina basketball in action tonight as they match up against Mississippi State.
You're totally telling
South
the
Carolina
truth. I was going to say the
13-7,
same thing if you did not.
Huge
League play.
I mean,
Wofford basketball,
it's
they
going to be
lose
one of
at
those
Mercer
things in a
yesterday
couple
by
years,
67 to
if not a
62
decade or
score.
so.
In the
in
loss,
future,
they are led by B.J. Mackey.
They're
scored
looking back
16
to this
points.
moment,
They'll get back at it coming up on
as,
Saturday.
this is why
when
this
they
is
match up
happening
against
now.
TSU. Furman basketball, they will return to action coming up tomorrow when they match up against the Citadel. We'll
at
have
some
that
level,
broadcast
I'm
for you
hoping
right here. The Carolina
Rule
Panthers
does
have
go to
announced
Michigan,
that their new offensive
Panthers
line
will be
coach
the one
is
team that
James
are like,
Campen,
okay, float.
a veteran
Come on.
coach
Yeah.
most recently
Come on.
working for the Houston Texans.
I think he would be perfect.
Download the Score app today. Lightning fast sports alerts so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports
All right,
apps.
let's see what's on in
With
the
your
stream
ESPN
chat today.
Update Sports Center
Tayshawn,
update,
let's see.
I'm Matt
Tayshawn
Pauley.
says Brian Flores dropped a big one on the NFL, didn't he? Oh, hell yeah, he did. Hell yeah, he did. That was enormous. That is this is honestly the biggest story out of the National Football League in years. We're about to break it down. But I got to tell you, if what Brian Flores is saying, and by the way, but dude brought receipts, son. Like that text from Hoodie is huge, and I know people don't think it is. Yeah, that text from Hoodie is absolutely huge, and is a absolute game changer. Tayshawn says, "Wasn't Flores?" Yeah, Flores just lost his job in Miami, right? And by the way, probably the only coach firing in the NFL that when it came down, we were all like, "What now? You fired who and why?" Right? But now he comes up a week later and says, the owner was offering me 6 figures to throw games, right? And I said no. Well, I got to tell you, for all the rumors that it was the negative chemistry that did Brian Flores in Miami, I can't think of anything more that would cause negative chemistry than the owner going, do this, and the employee going, no, right? That's big. Take the commercials out of the stream if you don't mind, please, and thank you. Thank you, Steven. He said Bill Belichick's message. Yeah, Hoodie's text was I'm not gonna say it was the smoking gun, but I think it's the thing that made everybody go, oh.
How ironic is it that the reason this all happened is, I don't want to say it's the reason it all happened. I'm sure they might have filed this regardless.
Yeah, I think they had already filed it.
But the icing on top is just Bill being an old man
And not yeah.
using technology
Well, I mean,
the right
in
way.
fairness, right? I genuinely think I think the majority of us have sent a text to one person we meant to send somebody else, right?
Right.
It happens. And it's caused some awkward conversations between a lot of people. Bill sending a text to the wrong Brian, not kicking it off because it was already gone. Apparently, Flores told the Saints on either late Monday or early Tuesday that he was doing this, but that he was still interested. And the Saints were like, bro, we hate the NFL too. Come in and interview. This might be a match made in hate heaven, right? So the Saints heard he was doing this at least a day ago, maybe two, and interviewed him anyway, which is awesome. But the fact that this lawsuit is 58 pages long and my dude brought receipts, if he can prove that Stephen Ross offered him money to tank,
It's over.
It's over.
Literally.
Second off, think about the number of conspiracy theories that all of a sudden have some justification to it, right?
Hey, Prism Health, start a next break.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Rob Brown Show back on your radio. This is ESPN Upstate. Rob, Owen filling in for the great one today, and you be a part of the show at 844-477-3776, 844-GSP ESPN. If you'd like to be a part of the show, 844-477-3776 if you want to get on board. Let me do this. This Brian Flores story, I mentioned it going out in the last break, and I've already got people that are like, Rob, you're blowing it out of proportion. I don't think I am. Now, I'm going to say two things about it. First and foremost, I very, very seriously take what Brian Flores said about discrimination and hiring practices in the National Football League as truth. I'm gonna hold off on using the word truth because truth is objective, right? A thing is truth. A thing is true if it comports to experience reality. I think it's Brian Flores' truth. There have been no shortages of black NFL coaches that have said they felt the same way, but have largely been ignored. We're going to talk about that later in the show. But I think the biggest part of this is his allegations against Stephen Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, right? There's two clips in there, Owen, from Brian Flores. And unfortunately, I can't get to the file to remember what I numbered that, but there's two directly from Brian Flores. And one of them is Flores telling Mike Greenberg in his show this morning that Stephen Ross offered him money effectively to throw games. Here's what Brian Flores said this morning on ESPN.
That was a conversation about not doing as much as we needed to do to win football games. Take a flight, go on vacation. I'll give you $100,000 per loss. Like, those are just the, exact words. And it's not something, look, I deal in truth. And I say that to the players as well. I'm going to give you, good news, bad news, but it's going to be the truth. It's going to be honest. And in that instance, look, I came from, look, this game's done a lot for me, a lot for me personally and my family. I've said this, on other, shows, but my parents are immigrants. I'm first generation. I grew up with, in a tough neighborhood here in Brooklyn, Brownsville, where there's crime and poverty and, violence. And it was hard to make it out of there. And the game of football is a reason why, or a big reason why, along with a lot of the great people mentors I've had in my life, why I was able to have the success that I've had. So to disrespect the game that way was something that, trust was lost, and there were certainly some strained relationships, and ultimately, I think that was to my demise in Miami.
And his story is not unique. Right? People are tweeting out. Coaches, high-level coaches, who have even contacted us, are talking about being in a similar situation. So, as part of what we're doing in creating this class action, is not just Coach Flores is taking the lead and making the ultimate sacrifice, but there's going to be more.
I want to make sure I'm clear here. You're saying coaches are reaching out about having been in similar situations with regard to hiring or with regard to being incentivized to lose games?
Both.
I want to come back to you quickly on that, though. I want to make sure I'm perfectly clear. He was suggesting, I don't want to put words in your mouth, you were working too hard, you were doing too much in the effort to win. He was trying to get you to do a little bit less and said, I'll give you $100,000 for every game.
Exactly that. That's just not my DNA. That was never going to happen.
So what did you say to him?
That's never going to happen. I didn't come here. Look, I'm always going to try to win. That's who I am. And I owe that to the players in the locker room, but also the support staff that's in the building, who work extremely hard. If you've been in an NFL building, everyone in that building, his job is important. And everyone works hard to try to get on the same page and move in the same direction. And I felt like we were building that type of culture. So I would never do that to them, you know. And at the end of the day, I think it was the reason why I'm no longer there.
So there's Brian Flores. And I know it's a bit of a lengthy clip, but I think it's important to get the full context in a conversation like this. That's where nuance comes from in these conversations. He is outright directly claiming that Stephen Ross came out and said $100,000 for every L for the rest of the year. At that point, the Dolphins were, and according to Flores, Stephen Ross was directly trying to get a better draft pick and said, you're overperforming here, right? Like you're screwing up. You're screwing up our draft order here. So we want you to work less hard. We want you to work less hard. We want you to take time off. We want you to kind of slow it down just a little bit. The other thing that Brian Flores directly accused Stephen Ross, and I want this to be the big part here. It is one thing to say the Dolphins did this. It's another thing to go, the owner, Stephen Ross, by name, specifically did this. Flores said that in 2019, he had been asked by Stephen Ross to effectively tamper with a high-profile, potentially free agent quarterback. My thought, Deshaun Watson. Maybe Tom Brady, but Deshaun Watson. Because it's been no secret over the past year that the Dolphins wanted Deshaun Watson. And the fact that they wanted Deshaun Watson, despite all the legal aspects that Deshaun's facing, makes it far more likely that even when Deshaun was a Texan and there was no tampering allowed there, he would have been willing to move some strings. Flores said that he initially asked him, Stephen Ross asked him, to get involved to try to convince this quarterback to come to Miami. And Flores says, I told him no, I wasn't doing it. It's against the rules. I'm not going to put my own reputation out there. So Stephen Ross, a number of weeks later, according to Brian Flores, take it with a grain of salt, Stephen Ross, a couple of weeks later, says, hey, Brian Flores, I want you to come down to my yacht. I'll be in Miami. I want you to come down to my yacht and have lunch, right? We'll talk football. So Brian Flores accepted. So Brian Flores goes down to the marina, jumps on Stephen Ross's yacht, and then Stephen Ross says, oh, by the way, coincidentally, definitely not on purpose, that same quarterback that I asked you to tamper on our behalf of a number of weeks ago just happens to be here in this exact marina at this exact time for another meeting. What if we mosey on down and say hi? Flores said, I got up and left. I wasn't doing it. Wasn't doing it. On top of that, you add the offer for $100,000 to tank games. I don't know that Brian Flores can back any of this up, right? He's got claims. We know we saw the receipts from Bill Belichick, and we're going to talk about that coming up in the next segment. But I don't know if Flores can back any of this up. Here's what I do know. He has given a motive, right? He has given a very specific course of action that he was asked to undertake. He has given a very specific reward for taking that course of action. And he is now named an NFL owner. You can get away in the NFL with going after referees and get a little $10,000 slap on the wrist. You can get away in the NFL with talking about the NFL. You can get away with talking about coaches. You can get away with talking about fans. The one group in the National Football League that considers themselves untouchable are the owners. So one group you cannot get away with attacking. And Brian Flores, who, by the way, I know a lot of people are saying, oh, he's doing this for attention because he's out of a job right now. Brian Flores has got like 6 interviews so far. I know he's interviewed with the Giants, or he was scheduled to was scheduled to interview with the Giants this week. He told, by the way, according to reports out of New Orleans, he told the Miami Saints on either Monday night or Tuesday morning that he was dropping this lawsuit. Straight up told him, hey, I got this multi-million-dollar lawsuit I'm filing later this week. And the Saints interviewed him anyway. All right. Brian Flores does not need negative attention around him. He's got plenty of positive attention based on players in Miami who were mad to see him go, at least a few of them, based on the performance that he's had out of the Dolphins last year. We're forgetting the Dolphins were one bad game away from making the playoffs this year. They got eliminated, if I recall, they got eliminated week 17. And with 2 more results, they'd have been alive in week 18. Brian Flores has named the course of action requested, the reward for following that course of action, and specifically and by name now mentioned an NFL owner at this point. I am not saying these accusations definitely happened because I don't know. And the only people who do know are Stephen Ross and Brian Flores. I am saying to be this specific, to give this many details, a 58-page lawsuit, you got some details in there. To put all of this out at the same time while you're trying to get another job, right? That's ballsy, man. That takes stones. Texter says Brian Flores has 0 interviews now. What a loser. Standard disgruntled employee. I used to work HR, make up a bunch of big headline items and try and sue. You're wrong, Texter. I literally just told you he interviewed with the Saints yesterday. After he told them that he had filed the law or was going to file the lawsuit, he literally interviewed with the Saints yesterday. I believe he's also interviewed with the Vikings. And he interviewed, I can't remember, he was scheduled to interview with the Giants. There's 3. Now, the other aspect of this, and we're going to talk about this when we come back. By the way, one more texture, just so because I got to tell you, I'm seeing there's a lot of anti-Brian Flores on the text right now, and I don't understand it. I genuinely don't get it, right? And I'm not going to lay out the easy course and go, it's kind of racist. I'm not going to say that, all right? Because I don't know. You genuinely may have a good argument, but here's what I do know. Every person who has texted me so far with an anti-Flores take is wrong factually in something they've said. One texter says Brian Flores has 0 interviews now. I told you he interviewed yesterday with the team that knew the lawsuit was coming, all right? And second off, texter says Flores was fired by a black GM, showed up late drunk to an interview, hard to claim racism. No. That is not what happened. What happened is, before he took the Dolphins job, Brian Flores had an interview with the Denver Broncos before they hired Vic Fangio. He showed up to the meeting. An hour late showed up John Elway and the president of the team. And according to Brian Flores, so this is up to a grain of salt as well, but according to that, John Elway and the president of the team showed up an hour late, disheveled and smelling of alcohol, effectively treated it as a let's get this Rooney Rule stuff out of the way, and then hired Vic Fangio. Now, another texter says, respectfully, how does any of what you've discussed so far translate to racism? Have I said that or anything close to it yet, Owen Watterson? I'll let you be the judge. No. In fact, if you've paid attention, instead of running to get offended that somebody might have a point, what I have only and exclusively talked about so far, only and exclusively till right now, the only thing that I have mentioned is Stephen Ross and the allegations against him by Brian Flores. I have not brought up racism. I have not brought up discrimination. I have not brought up the Rooney Rule. I have not brought up Hoodie's text in the New York Giants. I didn't bring any of that up yet. I'm absolutely gonna strap in because if you got your feelings all up right now, imagine what's coming. But so far, the only thing I have talked about is that Stephen Ross offered Brian Flores, according to Brian Flores, $100K per loss he threw, and twice asked him to break anti-tampering rules in the NFL with a potential free agent quarterback, either Deshaun or Brady. I think it's probably Deshaun. That's all I've talked about. But let me say this, and then I'm going to go get fired after the show. Let me say this. If you have heard the last 12 minutes that I have been talking about, where all I've talked about is the interactions that Brian Flores claimed that he had with Stephen Ross, and your first reaction was he saying racism? That's on you, dog. That's on you, not me. I haven't said a thing about racism. I haven't said a thing about discrimination. All I've said is if Stephen Ross did the things that Brian Flores is accusing of him of here, the NFL is corrupt from the ground to the top. That's all I've said. So for you to start running with, Rob said this is racist. I ain't mentioned racism at all. I'm gonna when I talk about these hoodie techs in the next segment. All right? But if that's what you heard so far, you're not paying attention. You are running to what's important to you instead of what the message is. And that's a problem.
And I'd like to add this before we get out of here and go to break. I mean, like Rob said, that I know the lawsuit is alleging racism, but this Stephen Ross thing, I mean, Rob, I can only imagine the reason the Dolphins had as big of an end of season push as they did for the playoffs after starting so poorly. You can't tell me he didn't tell some of these players about this and be like, look, this is what's going on. I'm telling you guys straight up, I am not going to do it. Just wait till one of these players comes to his defense. I'm sure it might take some time, but when that happens, there's not going to be any questioning this anymore.
It's going to, again, I don't know who else knows. The only people we know of right now that know whether this is true or false are Brian Flores and Stephen Ross. That's it. But if a sole player in that locker room heard that conversation between Ross and Flores, if Flores has a text where Ross said this or an email, and I promise you, Stephen Ross isn't an idiot. You don't become a billionaire by being an idiot. Stephen Ross probably covered his tracks real good because he knows if it ever gets out that an owner of a team asks the coach to throw games, that owner's done. Done. I got a clip from Stephen A. Smith about that here in a minute. And as I pointed out to somebody yesterday, if you ever get me and Stephen A. Smith in agreeing on something, you done screwed up. You done screwed up. All right. So let's take a break. We'll come back. Texture says not offended and not saying you're defending it. I'm asking because the lawsuit names racism. Yes, it does. But that is because of the part I'm going to tell you about in the next segment. I appreciate that text, Texture. Thank you very much for being a part of the conversation. The Preferred Home Services text line is 71307. Start your text with ESPN. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show, ESPN Upstate.
Prisma.
Which one?
Prisma Health.
Tell you about my friends at Prisma Health. Prisma Health, the official team physicians for the Carolina Gamecocks and the Clemson Tigers. And why? Because their orthopedics and sports medicine department is about as good as you can get. It's good enough that both of those two schools who don't agree on anything, when their athletes need sports medicine treatment, need orthopedic treatment, they both use Prisma Health. And if you do, you are going to get the same treatment from the same dedicated group of doctors. Prisma Health knows that hip and knee and joint pain can make your life difficult, and they can help you if joint pain is affecting your quality of life. Go to prismahealth.org/orthopedics. prismahealth.org/orthopedics. You can take their free health assessment there and then get in touch with their extended network of doctors and medical practitioners who can help you get back to feeling the way you want to feel. For you young athletes out there, Clemson uses Prisma Health. South Carolina uses Prisma Health, shouldn't you? Go to prismahealth.org, prismahealth.org to learn more. It's our friends at Prisma Health.
In Odyssey Station. A great segment, Rob.
Thanks, buddy.
It's funny. As soon as I saw this news yesterday, and I got the email from Hendricks saying Lonzo was supposed to come back,
yeah,
I was like, it's a little unfortunate. I'm not going to get to talk with
to be
Rob
here for this one.
I am excited about this.
Yeah, this gonna be a day. Let's see. Tayshawn says, salute Brian Flores for that, even though he might be blacklisted. What are his chances of being a coach for either the Saints or the Texans? The Saints are interesting, right? For two reasons. The first is, I promise you the NFL hates Brian Flores right now, right? I hate it. For one of two reasons. Because either he's lying and he's making the NFL look bad anyway, and even though he'll get his in their end if he is, it's a place that the NFL now has to throw a bunch of resources to defend himself. Or worse, he's telling the truth. And the NFL is about to get pegged, right? Because there have been folks out there for years that have been saying, hey, the NFL's rigged, right? Guys teams throw games to get better draft picks. The NFL rigs games for their preferred winners and losers. And I've always said to those people, you're crazy. It can't happen, right? That can't happen. And my part of my brain has always said, do you understand the number of people that would have to stay silent and how long they have to stay silent for this to blow up? One guy says something, the NFL can label him a crackpot conspiracy theorist, right? Multiple people start saying something, now they got a problem on their hand. Well, if Brian Flores doesn't settle this and he takes it to a trial of whatever type, and he brings receipts that Stephen Ross said and did these things, every person who's ever said that the NFL is fixed and teams throw games for different reasons, they are now justified. They are now justified. Louder. They are going to grow. I got to tell you, I'm an NFL fan first, always have been, right? I'm a Saints guy before everything else. I've been saying ever since the 2018 NFC Championship game where the Rams got away with the most blatant pass interference no call ever, that it does not take much to convince me that that was rigged, right? Because it was LA's first year. Roger Goodell's passion project was to get a team in Los Angeles. What would look better for him than LA going to the Super Bowl? And if that pass gets completed, and Bill Vinovich, I know the referee's name. That's how bad it was. Bill Vinovich blows the whistle and calls pass interference. The Saints win that game. Drew Brees is going to the Super Bowl, and LA is not, right? Do I realistically think the NFL rigged that game? No. Is there a small part of me that says yes? Yep. There's a chance that says it's possible. So if Brian Flores can bring receipts to the table and prove that Stephen Ross did this, now every person like me who's got just the littlest part of the lizard brain back there that goes, maybe the NFL is rigged, all of a sudden that little lizard brain goes, I was right.
Right.
And you got to answer for that.
And see, if he didn't settle and take $100K per loss, what makes you think he's gonna, at least in my mind, what makes you think he's gonna settle with the NFL? Especially if this is true. And he doesn't seem like the type of guy.
And he said, I know I'm risking my career here. I like a good back and forth. The last texter said, respectfully, how does any of what you discussed so far translate to racism? Right? I said, it doesn't, because I've only talked about Stephen Ross. He said, maybe think of it this way. Your audience doesn't follow as closely as you do. Most of your audience has heard Flores sues NFL and teams over racism, end quote. We're listening to you explain it, so asking how it translates to racism is a logical question. Thanks for explaining it before the break. And that's a very valid point. And I would like to thank that texter for bringing that nuance to this conversation because it is important. You are right. Sometimes those of us that do this job fall into the trap of assuming that I get paid to follow this stuff and talk about it. So I fall into the trap of assuming that everybody else pays as much attention as I do, and not everybody does. So let me get to the part that the allegations of racism come into play. The allegations of racism in the lawsuit that was submitted in the Southern District of New York City. Wow, that's interesting. We'll come back to that, Owen. Thank you for showing me that. Are claiming that Brian Flores is claiming that he has faced discrimination in hiring across the National Football League for head coaching positions. And there's two examples, prominent examples thus far, that have come to light. The first, and one that John Elway has come out and staunchly disagree with, is that when he was a candidate for the Denver Broncos job a couple of years ago, He said that he went to interview with the Broncos and showed up for the interview. Brian Flores said he showed up for the interview. And at the time, had an interview with, I think he said he had 9 interviews at the time. He showed up for his interview with the Denver Broncos. Said I had 9 interviews with NFL clubs. There was one interview where there was one interview where everyone was late, and it wasn't me that was late. That was the interviewers who were late, and that was with the Broncos. I think there was a reason they were late. I think they had been out the night before. When you sit at a table with 5 people who are interviewing you, you can tell who's asking question, who's into the interview, who's not necessarily in the right state at that moment. But even then, I put my best foot forward and show why I was a good candidate for the job. I'm always going to do that. But I certainly did not feel like I was taken seriously, and I was just there as a Rooney Rule candidate. He said that John Elway and other members of the Broncos brass had their minds made up before the interview actually took place. And he believes, according to the interview that he gave on First Take, that, quote, I think they had been out the night before. He said that they were disheveled, that they were, you know what a hangover looks like, all right? If you don't, good for you, all right?
I mean, he said he was from Brownsville, guys.
Yeah.
Come on, he knows what a hangover is.
So he basically said Elway and the rest of them, all right. So he said they were hungover, and he felt like he was just there as a Rooney Rule candidate, right? Because the NFL is required at the time to interview at least one minority coach for their job. And a lot of people have said that, a lot of folks have said the Rooney Rule is effectively the NFL allowing themselves to look like they are trying, but not actually do anything, right? Well, a lot of those stories have been dismissed in the past, but then Brian Flores did something that blew everybody's socks off. Brian Flores brought receipts to the internet about text that he received from Bill Belichick. And these texts are part of the lawsuit that has been filed. He claims that the Giants discriminated against him based on the conversation with Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick texted very early this week, sounds like you have landed. Congrats. Brian Flores wrote back and said, did you hear something I did not hear? I'm reading these quotes verbatim, by the way. Bill Belichick wrote, Giants, question mark, exclamation mark, question mark, exclamation mark, question mark, exclamation mark. Hoodie text like an 18-year-old girl. I like it. Brian Flores wrote back and said, I interview on Thursday. I think I have a shot at it. Bill Belichick wrote back and said, got it. I hear from Buffalo and New York Giants that you are their guy. Hope it works out if you want it to. Brian Flores then wrote back and said, that's definitely what I want. I hope you're right, coach. Thank you. Then a few minutes later, realized what had happened. And Brian Flores wrote back to Bill Belichick, coach, are you talking to Brian Flores or Brian Daboll? Just making sure. Bill Belichick wrote back, and I quote, sorry, I bleeped this up. I double-checked and misread the text. I think they are naming Daboll. I'm sorry about that. BB. Flores wrote back, thanks, Bill. My favorite thing about this is that Belichick signed the last text BB, like, and I'm out. Done with this conversation. Oh, he wrote BB like that. I'm done here, bro. I'm done here. You think Hoodie, you ever sent a text to the wrong name?
I think everybody has at some level.
100%. 100%. My phone does this fun little thing where if you have a text open, right? So if I open this text and then I close my phone screen and somebody else texts me, right? If that text is on the screen and I just open my phone screen back up, it goes to the old text, not the one that I just got. And I can't tell you how many times I have sent a text to a new texter as opposed to the one I sent it. Years ago when I lived in Jacksonville, with a woman who you get it. I was out and about in Jacksonville, and I had a couple of friends who lived there, and one was a girlfriend, not a girlfriend, a girl who is a friend who was a girl, who I had worked with 10 years ago before that in Destin. And at this point, our relationship was effectively over, you know? So she sent me a text and she's like, do you want to go get drinks later? Because she knew I was in a crap spot. She's like, you want to go get for drinks later? And I was like, I'd love to meet you. Let's meet at this restaurant at like 9:30. Except for when I went to send it, I sent it to the soon-to-be ex. And of course, she was what's the word? Terrible. Got the wrong text. Very awkward conversation, right? Oh, you're going to meet some other girl? Because you suck. But that's not the point. It's happened. It's happened to everybody. But Hoodie has basically just in this text, I think it's fair to infer that Hoodie has now told Brian Flores that the Giants were already planning on naming Brian Daboll, but we're going to interview Brian Flores so they hit Rooney Rule requirements, which shows that the NFL doesn't care about actually promoting minority coaching candidates within the league. They're just doing this as a, hey, look, we're trying. And Hoodie just put it on display to the world. And Flores said, I'll take Hoodie down with us. I don't care. It's interesting.
It is. And to add a little bit lighthearted, one of my favorite tweets I saw about this situation yesterday said, wait till they find out the reason Schefter got the Tom Brady news early is because BB meant to text Adam Sandler instead of Adam Schefter.
Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll polish off this last hour. We got plenty more of this story to get to. We have scratched the surface here on the Rob Brown Show at ESPN Upstate. That's a really good text.
Oh, I was rolling when I saw that.
That's a great text.
Should probably turn the phone lines on, honestly.
Oh, yes, please do.
Yeah, I bet people want to call about this.
Radio.com is now Odyssey. Download the Odyssey app and listen to ESPN Upstate and all the sports, news, music, and podcasts. Do it for you and your people. Do everything possible to see that it is all in one place. It's the Odyssey app for ESPN Upstate. Odyssey is your new home for all the audio that matters to you. Download the Odyssey app today. Get all the sports you love. And listen to ESPN Upstate.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
This is a client alert from James Finch, former Assistant Director of the FBI's Cyber Crimes Division. Your home's title is the only document that proves you own your home. And now, cyber criminals are able to forge our names off our home's title and claim they own it. It's a nightmare crime. Watch a video of a former cyber thief who now trains police to show how it's done and how Home Title Lock could have stopped it. Visit HomeTitleLock.com/radio. HomeTitleLock.com/radio.
This is important news. If you have unfiled tax returns, the IRS is shifting gears and ramping up investigations on non-filers this year. If you failed to file your tax returns for a year or more, or you owe back taxes now...
Do me a favor. If I'm out of the room, doesn't matter right now. If I go out of the room and you step off screen, you know how to put the "We'll be right back" button on? Okay. Over on the right hand of the screen next to the chat, there are, on the far right side, there's those little buttons, comments, banners, brand.
Yep.
If you go to brand and you scroll down to where it says video clips, there's 2. One says "We'll be right back" and one says "We'll be back." You just click one of those and it'll flip over to it.
Okay, perfect. You got it.
Not a huge deal, but just so if somebody happens to tune in, they don't just see 2 empty chairs.
This is a long break. Yeah, you're gonna have to get it right out.
Yeah.
Just keep the music around.
Golfers, the best upstate deal on golf is back and on sale now. The 2022 Upstate Golf Card gets you a round of golf at 10 premier Upstate courses, and it's still only $99. Grab your foursome and get your Upstate Golf Cards now to play courses including the Preserve at Verde, Willow Creek, Legacy Pines, Carolina Springs, and more. Order at theupstategolfcard.com. 10 rounds of golf for only $99. Upstategolfcard.com. Upstategolfcard.com.
We got one more commercial.
3 more.
Yes, 3 more. Oh, dang. All 30s, I hope.
No, 2 are 15s, and there's 1 minute.
Minute 20. So, yeah, we're going to have like 10 seconds to get in and get out. All good. It was worth it for this hour. We got a lot of good stuff
especially
in this
for
hour.
everything that's going on. You're right.
Yeah, we got a lot of good stuff in this hour.
Hey guys, good news. The outrageously expensive Viagra is available in generic form, which means you can get the prescription medication to treat ED for a fraction of the cost, and hence makes it extra affordable. The generic form of Viagra has the same active ingredient, but is 90% cheaper. And right now, get your first online doctor's visit totally free when you go to 4hims.com/joy. That's right, free. Zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations to get your prescription. Hims connects you to medical providers online who can evaluate you and, if appropriate, prescribe your ED medication. Then a certified pharmacy sends it right to your door. Hims makes it affordable, private, and incredibly easy. Nobody likes dealing with ED. Now, thanks to Hims, nobody has to, and that's really good news. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/joy. That's 4hims.com/joy for your free.
Can I skip this next commercial?
What's it for?
Top line.
Nah, let it run.
Yeah.
This is it, right? 15 seconds
Yeah,
left.
this is the last one. It'll be a couple seconds late.
Preferred Home Services text line 71307. Start your text with ESPN. It's absolutely blowing up. We got to run to the top of the hour break. We're back right after this, and I'll address your text on ESPN Upstate.
Happens.
All good. Just can't do it again this show. But we're good right now.
They match up against Mississippi State. South Carolina 13-7, 4-4 play. Wofford basketball, they lose at Mercer yesterday by a 67-62 score. In the loss, they are led by BJ Mack. He scored 16 points. They'll get back at it coming up on Saturday when they match up against TSU. Furman basketball, they will return to action coming up tomorrow when they match up against Citadel. We'll have that broadcast for you right here. The Carolina Panthers have announced that their new offensive line coach is James Campen, the veteran coach most recently working for the Houston Texans. Download the Score app today. Lightning fast sports alerts. You never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. With your ESPN Upstate Sports Center update, I'm Matt Pauley.
Have you heard Offsides with Mark Ryan?
Start of the next break, Rob. QC Kinetics.
Okay.
Tom Brady, you gotta tell me, my man looks good in that jersey. Tom Brady is a sum of all parts.
Keegan says I'm late getting in, but has anyone made a Washington joke yet?
Oh yeah, my half my Twitter thread is calling them the commies.
I didn't know if I could say that or not.
Mhm.
It's good to have you in here, though, Keegan.
Your smart speaker.
I know you're out there, touching things again. But who was there for you when you didn't want to touch anything? When all you had to do was ask, and you got all the information you wanted from a trusted source.
Still the best way to stay in touch with Upstate.
Go ahead, touch your nasty phone. See if I care.
On air, on your smart speaker.
Keegan. And away we go with hour number 2, ladies and gentlemen. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. This is ESPN Upstate. I am Rob Brown. Owen Watterson at the board today, filling in for Lonzo. A little under the weather. Our tank is down, but shall return gloriously. In the meantime, we go to the bullpen, pull out the lefty, and he's coming in doing yeoman's work to carry the show today on short notice. We appreciate it. 844-GSP-ESPN is the phone number. The preferred home services text line is 71307. Now, let's get to the reason. And you guys know I love a lighthearted show. All right? I love a lighthearted show. My whole goal is to be fun and happy and energetic, but there are times when you've just got to have the tough conversations, and today is one of those days. And again, if you disagree, the phone lines and the text line are wide open. The show does not shy away from talking to you about your thoughts on what we have to say. So I give you the number every segment and the text line every segment. The Twitter at The Rob Brown Show or at ESPN Upstate, your pick. Can also email me if you got something more long form but don't want to go on the air. Rob Brown at ESPNUpstate.com. Rob Brown at ESPNUpstate.com. My email stays open during the show. I read them as they come in. So here's a couple of texts that have come in so far over the course of the last half hour or so. And I'm going to read all of them, and then I'm going to respond to a handful of them because a lot of them are of similar light. Texter says, whether or not Flores stories are true, the whole race card has been overplayed. It no longer has any power or meaning. It's been watered down from when people use it out of spite. I will absolutely agree that there are some people who will utilize a number, not just race, but a number of different aspects of their life to put themselves in a position of victimhood when they're not. However, you also have to acknowledge when there are times that people are put at a disadvantage because of certain situations, right? I know a guy back down in Florida who was was about to get hired to come work for us, my old radio station. But one of the requirements you have to have is you got to be able to get to work, right? You got to have transportation. And unfortunately, not a lot of public transportation options down in Destin, Florida. They don't have buses. There's effectively Uber. This guy had gone through an injury from a previous job, was unable to drive, and basically had no other form of transportation and could not afford, because he lived about 30 minutes from the station, could not afford to hire a car to take him back every day. Couldn't get the job. Not because we didn't want him, but because he couldn't get there every single day. He was at a disadvantage because of his injury and his inability to transport himself, and the fact that he had nobody able to do it for him on a regular schedule basis. That guy was in a crappy situation, not of his own making, right? It happens to people. And yes, there are people out there that will make decisions based on your race or your religion or your creed, right? In fact, again, back in my old hometown, not to crap on it, but it is what it is, knew a guy who got in trouble because he refused to hire a man who was a perfect candidate for the job because he was Muslim. I know the man's name, the guy who didn't get hired and the guy who ran the business. It happens. It's crappy, but it happens. Texter says, so Flores is suing for racism from just assumption. You know what assumptions do. Another texter says, I just don't get the concept that it's racist. You deserve a job because of your skin color. Imagine a corporate world where they already knew who they want in that job and they totally screw you over to meet minimum requirements. Oh, wait, that happens all the time. Another texter says, honestly, I don't get how this is racist. Did they not hire you because they already knew who they wanted and just had to meet some dumbass rule? Or did they explicitly say they won't hire you because they're black? I don't get it. Another texter says, it's happened to me and I'm white. I interviewed for a job that was very confident was already earmarked for someone else, but they had to meet minimum interview requirements. Happens all the time. The world is unfair. Seems like a reach to call it racist unless there's details I'm missing. Another texter, just for argument's sake, the Giants interviewed and hired the guy they wanted. It's not like Flores is an unknown quantity. He has a resume and qualities they either like or don't like. And are these same people upset that the Rooney Rule of equitable interviewing isn't being followed for our next Supreme Court pick, or does that outrage only go in one direction? So let me respond to one. I think what is the overwhelming point, because the majority of these are either statements that it is not or questions about why it is that Brian Flores and others are claiming discrimination here. And I'll make you the one point by playing a little game with Owen Watterson. Owen, can you name me all the black head coaches in the NFL right now?
Mike Tomlin.
End of list. End of list. Okay. Now, there are some other minority coaches right now. Robert Saleh of the New York Jets, Ron Rivera of the Washington Commanders. And I want to say, I'm trying to recall off the top of my head. I didn't go look it up, but I want to say Tomlin is the only black coach. Rivera, Saleh, David Culley's not. He's got fired. David Culley's not got fired. Brian Flores not got fired. I think that's it. I think right now the list is Rivera, Tomlin, and Saleh are the only 3 minority coaches. So the point, and again, it is an inference. It is an inference, and some people are going to disagree with this, and that's okay. But the question mark that I think has been thrown up is, why is it that in a league where upwards of 70% of its players are black, 70% of the NFL up is black, why is it that there's one black head coach, right? Why is it that we keep seeing the same handful of retread white coaches go round and round in circles, right? I mean, for the love of God, Bill O'Brien is getting interviews to be an NFL head coach, right? Does anybody want Bill O'Brien as their head coach? Honest to God, right now, if I ask you, do you want Bill O'Brien in charge of your team, no matter how good your team is, do you want Bill O'Brien as your head coach?
I really hope you're saying no.
Yeah. So why is it the same handful? The wheel turns with retread coaches. There's one black coach, right? Now, last year there were more. There was David Culley in Houston. There was obviously Brian Flores down in Miami. But then again, that's 3. Last year you had 3. You had 5 total minority coaches last year. You had Rivera, Tomlin, Flores, Culler, and Saleh. That's it. 3 of them are now out of jobs. And the interviews are going today. Brian Dabble, heard that name 100 times before, right? It's the same names. So the question, and I am asking this question, and this is the question that Brian Flores is asking, is why is it in a league with upwards of 70% of the participants in the league are black? Is there one black head coach? There's one. If you want to say that this is not racist, that's fine. But I need answers why. Because I find it very difficult to say that all these white coaches are just better than Brian Flores, right? Just better than Brian Flores. Because I watched what Brian Flores did the last 2 years in Miami in a franchise that was a dumpster fire before he took over. And he had them down to the wire and making it into the league. I am not arguing. Texture says ESPN, so bringing up the percentage of players means they would make better coaches. No, not at all. Not at all. I'm asking, why is there one when 70%? And again, the talent pool of potential head coaches is not limited to guys who played in the league, right? It's not a limited talent pool to only guys that have played in the league. But there is an obvious and non-refutable difference in the ratio of those who participate in the league and those who are coaches in the league, right?
And those who are owners in the league.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and again, I think ownership's even tougher because, again, the qualifications for being an owner are you got to be a billionaire. Right. Now, if we wanted to go super woke, we could talk about wealth disparity in the United States, but this ain't that kind of show. All right. So we'll put the owners aside because the qualifications to become an owner are much, much different than being a player. But there's one black head coach, upwards of 70%, almost 3/4 of the league is African American. Why are there not more black head coaches? Right. And so I think the premise that Flores is making here is they're not trying. They're not trying. They claim they're trying with the Rooney Rule. But what he has just brought to the table with this Bill Belichick text is that teams don't give a darn about the Rooney Rule. They don't care about the Rooney Rule. The Rooney Rule, and again, this is something that I have heard black players and show hosts from around the world, around the country, I should say, talk about. The Rooney Rule is the NFL just giving lip service, right? Yeah, we're trying. But are you, though? Are you?
If anything, the Rooney Rule hurts way, way, way more than it helps because now it just gives an excuse to say, oh, wait, there's a rule in place. Of course we did our due diligence. Of course we interviewed these minorities. And it seems like it's more of a scapegoat than it ever really was meant to help. And it's been established since 2003.
Well, again, I think if you're coming from the side that believes there is an unjustified disparity between the number of black players and coaches with one black coach, you're looking at the Rooney Rule now that Bill Belichick has just told Brian Flores, they already got their guy. They're interviewing you just so that they meet criteria, right? If the story about the Denver Broncos is true, and again, I don't know if Brian Flores can prove it. I don't know if Brian Flores has receipts for that. I'll find out when I get a chance to look through the full lawsuit if that text becomes available. If the story about the Broncos is true, I'm not saying that at the time, Brian Flores was definitely a guy who should have got the job over Vic Fangio. In retrospect, if the Broncos could take it back, I bet you $1 they would. All right. But what I am saying is, if they did show up to a meeting with Flores an hour late and hungover, they weren't taking that meeting seriously, right? If I have a meeting with you and you show up an hour late and hungover, whatever business we had, it ain't happening because you don't take it seriously. And that's what this allegation is, right? That's what this allegation is. When you look at those, when you look at those stories, those anecdotes from Brian Flores, which again, I assume he's got something if you put it in a lawsuit, right? If you look at those anecdotes in the light of there being 3 black coaches last year and 2 of them got fired. By the way, in firings that a lot, I'm not going to say the majority, but a lot of us went, wait, you did what now? You fired, why did the Texans fire David Culley? Why did they fire David Culley? Because David Culley was cannon fire to cover their ass for running a garbage franchise into the ground. And they needed somebody to take the fall that wasn't Nick Caserio, Jack Easterby, or the family that runs it, right? That's what I told you that when David Culley got hired. I called the shot. I said, this is not a hiring that they're hiring because they believe David Culley is going to be a great coach. They need a coach that they can bring in for a year and then fire at the end of the year when Deshaun leaves and the franchise blows even more apart so that Easterby, so that McNair, and so that Caserio don't have to come in front of a podium and go, hey, we built you a terrible franchise. Our bad, right? Brian Flores, give me a genuine reason that Brian Flores got fired this year. Give me one. Let me rephrase that. Let me refine that a little bit. Give me a genuine football reason that Brian Flores got fired.
Especially after the way they finished, I'm not sure that anybody, Texter or me, could give you one. I mean, it's obvious the players respected the crap out of Brian Flores. Yeah. He did a heck of a coaching job.
I haven't heard a single person in the Miami media say he was hard to work with.
Nope.
And that the franchise was a game away from the playoffs.
The way the media feels about a head coach is a pretty big indicator of their character, in my opinion.
You don't hear a lot of media bending over backwards to talk about how great Bill Belichick is. Bill Belichick's great because of what he does on the field. There are plenty of other NFL coaches that the media love to work with because they give excellent access and good answers and whatever. Flores seemed to be more in that group. So give me a football reason that Brian Flores was fired. The only one I can come up with was they had a 7-game losing streak, which is true, and that's fair. You know what else they did? Immediately went on a 7-game winning streak, right? Immediately did that. So if a 7-game losing streak is that bad, isn't it offset by a 7-game winning streak, which I think, and I could be wrong, there were only like 2 or 3 teams that accomplished that this year. I put 7 wins together back to back. So, I don't know. Texas says, Rob, there isn't more black head coaches because every time one gets fired, it always goes to the race card.
That's not true.
That's not true at all. I disagree with you wholeheartedly.
There wasn't a race card when David Culley got fired.
No, nobody said Culley got fired because he's black. Culley didn't get fired because he was black. Culley got fired because the Texans suck with a capital S, right? Nobody said that. And again, The Flores thing, I didn't hear people go, they fired him because he's black. I heard people going, the hell are you doing, Miami? My Miami Dolphins friends blew up my phone that day like, yo, WTF, Rob. Like, I got nothing for you, guys. It's my job to have something for you. I got nothing for you. Again, I don't think that's the answer. Texas says, what are the percentages between applicants for head coaching jobs? How many minorities versus others? I don't know is the answer. I don't know. But I can't suspect there's so few black coaching candidates that there's one in the league, right? And again, I am not saying, so that I am abundantly clear in this discussion, I am not saying in any way, shape, or form that the reason that there is one black head coach is because of racism. I'm not saying that. I am telling you that the reason that guys like Brian Flores insinuate racism is the answer is because no other answers are being provided. Now, if you can dig that number up, right? Because I got to tell you, I suspect that right now of all times, if the NFL knew that what's one is what? About 3% of 32. All right. If the NFL knew that 3% of head coaching applicants were black, and that's just all the resumes they were getting, then I suspect the NFL will be putting it out there. We embrace diversity, right? That's our whole thing. We're putting the stickers on the helmets. We embrace diversity. If the NFL was getting 3% of their applications for head coaching jobs from African Americans, they would come out and go, we encourage diversity. We encourage more African American coaches to try to work their way up to the head ranks. I got a feeling it's more than 3%. And if it is more than 3%, again, I'm speculating here, but with the number of black assistant coaches around the league, with the number of black coordinators around the league, I got to assume it's more than 3% of those are trying to move up. So if it is above 3%, then that disparity has failed to be explained by just numbers. There is another reason. What is it? Brian Flores is saying, I think it's racial discrimination. I'm not saying he's right. I'm saying I'd like to know what the variable is, and there's only a limited number of options available on the table, and that is one of them, whether you like it or not. That's why this is a discussion.
I'd also like to add, I'm looking up some numbers here about assistant coaches inside the NFL because majority of the time, unless it's a college coach that is really good enough to make that jump, most teams in their hiring process are looking at current NFL assistants that are doing much better than an above average job at their job, right? And the number I'm seeing is close to 40%, 35% of all assistant coaches in the NFL right now are black.
What number?
35%.
35%, which is higher than 3. Okay? 35%, which is in line with base United States population, where about 30% of the population is African American, right? So that number's in line. It makes sense. That number's in line. 35-ish. In fact, it may even be a little high. 35-ish% of assistant coaches in the NFL are African American. There's one black head coach. One. Face of the franchise? One. Explain to me why that number is there. Again, I absolutely believe there is some level of racial discrimination. Do I think all 32 owners and owners' families in the league are racist? No. Do I think 32 GMs in the league are racist? No. Do I think there are some GMs and owners out there that would absolutely elevate a black coach to that position if they felt they were the best chance to win? Absolutely. But there's one, and it's Mike Tomlin. And that's it. By the way, Texter says real quick, and then I'm going to get Owen in here. We'll take a break. Texter says he got fired for the same record as Muschamp did from South Carolina. Got fired because he had a 500 record. Here are the 3 seasons before Brian Flores. The Dolphins were 6-10, 7-9, 5-11. Brian Flores took over. The 3 years leading up under Adam Gase, 10-6, 6-10, 7-9. Under Brian Flores, they were 5-11 his first year. Most coaches aren't great in their first year. They were 10-6 their second year. They're 9-8 the third year. He was above 500 2 out of the 3 years, right? The 1 year that he was below 500, the 511 was his first year when he took over for Adam Gase, who left that place as a dumpster fire on his way out the door, right? A lot of roster turnovers when he comes out. Brian Flores did a good job with Miami this year.
You can't compare this situation to Will Muschamp. I mean, it's not apples to apples. Going 500 in the NFL with as much young talent as the Miami Dolphins had is not the same of 5-6 years of Will Muschamp recruiting as well as he did and consistently putting out poor performances, poor quarterback play, and poor defensive play when he was supposed to be a defensive head coach to begin with.
Yeah, exactly right. Let's see. So Flores was 9-8 this year, 10-6 last year, missed the playoffs by, I think, a game, ended up third in the division. I did get my numbers wrong. I want to correct my mistake before we take a break. Rob, that's where you're wrong. 13% of the population is African-American, so 13% of coaches should be African-American in a perfectly equal world. Correct. I did get my numbers backwards. I said 31 is 13%. 13% of African-Americans, 13% of the American population is African-American. And so it is in line if everybody was equal. If everybody had an equal what's the word I'm looking for here? Everybody had equal resumes to be coaches, then these numbers would be right. But again, the big number here to me, I did mistake. I will correct my mistake here. 75% of the league is black. 3% of the head coaching is black. So even if we go, okay, as assistant coaches, African Americans are overrepresented. If you want to say it, that's an awful way to say it, but you get what I'm trying to say here. But they are enormously underrepresented as head coaches. So even if you follow that logic, you still have to explain why head coaching percentage, why there's one. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm saying that's what Brian Flores is saying is the case. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show.
QC Kinetics.
Tell you about my good friends at QC Kinetics. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the deal. Here is the reality. Joint pain is going to happen to you. Knee pain, hip pain, lower back pain, ankle pain, elbow pain, knee pain, spinal column pain. Everywhere that you bend, you have connective tissue, and that connective tissue is going to wear down over time. And as it does wear down over time, stuff that ain't supposed to touch is going to start to touch. And once that stuff starts to touch, you're going to get inflammation. It's going to start to hurt, and it's going to impact the way you live your day-to-day life. Well, you don't want it to, do you? Yeah, I didn't think so. Neither do I, which is why you need to call my friends at QC Kinetics, 864-448-3772. Mention the Rob Brown Show and get your first consultation for free, 864-448-3772. Mention the Rob Brown Show, get that first consultation for free. And once you do, they are going to tell you all about their non-surgical regenerative therapy. They heal your body using your body's own natural healing capabilities from the inside out. You don't have to get sliced and diced. No drugs, no steroids, no anesthesia, no physical therapy. You go in, you get the therapy. You go back to your day-to-day life without joint pain and without the fear of joint pain. Doesn't that sound nice? I thought that it might. So go to QCkinetics.com, QCKINETIX.com, QCkinetics.com, and get your appointment scheduled today with our friends at QC Kinetics.
Let's make this next segment quick.
Yep.
I'm going to go fill up my water real quick.
Furman basketball, they will return to action coming up tomorrow when they match up against Citadel. We'll have that broadcast for you right here. The Carolina Panthers have announced that their new offensive line coach is James Campen, a veteran coach most recently working for the Houston Texans. Download the Score app today, lightning fast sports alerts so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. With your ESPN Upstate Sports Center update, I'm Matt Pauley.
ESPN Upstate is your home for Drummond Paladins men's basketball every day on ESPN Upstate, 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg. smart speaker fan phone on the Odyssey app.
I'm Chelsea Messenger, helping you beat the books with BetQL. Coming into the season, among the Lakers' biggest problems was being the oldest team in NBA history. And with age comes injuries. LeBron is likely out again tonight with a swollen knee. The Lakers have lost 3 straight without him. At least they're back home to face the Blazers, right? Wrong. LA among the worst teams when it comes to covering the number at home. That's why the Blazers end points today. BetQL 5-star best bets.
Without the ones like you, who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done.
I'm going to put a be right back up.
No, we're good. Since I'm sitting here, we're fine. As long as one of us is on camera, we don't need to worry about it. If we both have to step off, that's when we'll throw.
Granger, for the ones who get it done.
I'm starting middle school this year. With everything happening this summer, I don't think we have the time or even the money. Don't worry, Mom. My AffordableBraces.com only has braces starting at $39.95.
I already accept that I'll be having a conversation with somebody after this show.
Think so?
Not like in trouble, but just be careful.
So many times I almost jumped in, but
What you gonna do in this business, huh?
As South Carolina's most preferred orthopedic provider and official team doctors for the Gamecocks and Tigers, Prisma Health provides all the gear you need. With more expertise, more technology, and more locations closer to you.
it's absolutely jamming out to Rocket Man in the bathroom. Stone Man bringing the heat.
Stone Man's part freaking penguin.
That dude is hilarious.
He is. I like Stone Man. He's a good dude. He's a good dude.
10 people on stream. What's going on, y'all?
And pay off those credit card balances. Apply online and you can get your money as soon as the day you apply. The average credit card company charges over 19% APR, but with LightStream, you can get a fixed rate as low as 4.98% APR with auto pay and excellent credit.
Now I can pay off my high-interest credit cards and save money at a much lower rate.
Apply today at lightstream.com/radio. Get an additional interest rate discount. That's lightstream.com/radio. Lightstream.com/radio.
Subject to credit approval rates range from 4.98% APR to 19.99% APR and 0.5%.
Ooh, Keegan with a good question. I think this is going to blackball Flores from the league. I don't know. I don't quite know yet. I think he's too, in my opinion, I think he's too talented of a coach for that to happen despite all this.
Bloodzo and I were talking about it this week. Because he does an interview well thought, and I agree with all that. But the other aspect of it is, and I asked Lonzo this, who calls the shots for the Kansas City Chiefs offense? Andy Reid does. Bieniemy's an offensive coordinator, but there's a lot of people who believe he's more offensive quality control than he is actual coordinator, because Andy Reid's the one with the Waffle House menu calling the shots.
Yep.
And I think that hurts him.
Yeah, that's fair. And I don't know, Bieniemy is... He'll get his chance eventually, but the conversation with Bieniemy to me is always like, if you're Eric Bieniemy right now, why would you want to leave? You're coaching a generational quarterback.
To be a head coach.
I
I'm
mean,
not saying he does. I mean, he may be really happy.
Let's do this.
Texter says ESPN, by that exact same logic, there should be a discussion about why there aren't as many white players in the league. I think coaches and players and refs and assistants are all mutually exclusive. Not all players are coaches and not all coaches are players. Agreed. I completely agree. Two sides to that coin. Number one, I think it's pretty well demonstrated that the best players in football play in the NFL regardless of race, right? We have seen... we're even at the college level. We're seeing guys get flown in from Australia because the rugby punt is popular and they're the best rugby punters in the world. I think at this point, it's pretty demonstrable that the best players play. Cooper Kupp is going to, if he doesn't win the NFL MVP, I'll be absolutely shocked. But Cooper Kupp, a white receiver, right? Breaks the mold. Is arguably one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver in the National Football League. Again, I'm not going to dismiss claims of discrimination, but they've got to come with some evidence, which is why I have very, very rarely I very rarely brought up this discussion or similar discussions on the show, because there are a lot of people who make this claim and they do so without data or merit. And I go, all right, you got to give me something. The difference between this situation and so many other situations is that Brian Flores is bringing receipts. I'd like to point out and be very clear about it. To me, the biggest and most detrimental problem with this lawsuit is Stephen Ross right now. Stephen Ross telling Brian Flores $100K for L's, tamper with this quarterback. Oh, you won't do it on your own. Come down to my yacht. Oh, he just happens to be here at the same arena at the same time. What a coincidence. Let's go say hi. That's the biggest problem the NFL has here. And I want that to be to sit with you, right? Because if Stephen Ross is telling his head coach, lose. By the way, Hugh Jackson, who's now the head coach at Grambling State, but was with the Cleveland Browns for a while, he has now come out. And he has now said that when he was there with the Browns, the owners there offered him money to toss games too, to take L's and move up in draft positioning. Now, I don't know if Hugh Jackson has any receipts, because honestly, I just saw that story right before we came on the air. But if Stephen Ross is doing it, it's hard to say no other owner has ever done this before. And maybe more importantly, it's hard to say no other coach has ever said yes before, right? Because if you're a coach that was offered $100K from a team to toss L's out and make it look like you tried, and you're gonna get a six-figure bonus, right? And it's off the books, you're never gonna come clean about it. And the owner who offered it and paid it is never gonna come clean about it. We never know. So if Brian Flores is able to bring receipts that Stephen Ross said, what Brian Flores said he said, this is damning for the NFL, because it shows the NFL has fixed games before, right? Maybe not from the Roger Goodell level, but certainly from the ownership level. And what is the most powerful entity in the National Football League? The owners. People forget this about Roger Goodell. I've said it many times. I think Roger Goodell's a clown. Don't get me wrong. But Roger Goodell is a mouthpiece, right? He is a mouthpiece. All he is a mouthpiece for the owners. He says what the owners want him to say. He does what the owners tell him to do. They are the driving force. They are the ultimate entity in all of this. That's why this is a problem. Because if he is doing this, if Stephen Ross did it, he may not, probably is it in my opinion, but may not be the only owner to do it. And if Brian Flores can prove that he was offered money to lose, I'd be happy to work under the assumption he's not the first coach to be offered money to lose. And Hugh Jackson has already come out and said, happened to me too. I just didn't tell anybody about it. Which I don't know if it's true or not. We'll see if Hugh Jackson's got receipts. But if a coach has ever done it and said yes and thrown a game intentionally, that coach is never going to say, the owner's never going to say. That's why this aspect of it is so big. Because if we can prove that Stephen Ross did what Flores said, now we can start digging deeper into when else has it happened? What games has it impacted? Has it ever impacted playoff races before? Playoff races impact the Super Bowl. Have we ever seen a Super Bowl directly impacted? There are question marks. That's the biggest element of what Brian Flores brought out. The racial discrimination element of it, which I know we talked about to open this hour, the racial discrimination element of it is important. It's it's a very important aspect, right? Because if Brian Flores can prove, and Bill Belichick kind of helped him do this, if Brian Flores can prove that teams effectively know that the Rooney Rule is nothing more than a token gesture of lip service, right? Then it means the NFL has not actively promoted diversity the way they claim they're doing. In which case, every goodwill messenger they've ever sent out is definitely virtue signaling at its finest.
That's my biggest problem with all of this, Rob, is the virtue signaling. I mean, how many times over the past couple of years have we seen the NFL come out very vocally and actively with, even with the Black Lives Matter in the back of the end zones and stuff recently, saying that they are actively trying to fix this situation, right? And you can try and fix it from the top of it, but if you don't have the owners on board with Roger Goodell and the NFL commissioner's office trying to do the same thing, then what does it matter?
Yeah. All right, here's a couple of more texts that have come in. Texter says ESPN sounds like 70% of players are black, then 21 or 22 teams should have black head coaches. My thought process is these owners aren't trying to get their head coaching vacancies wrong. These owners are type A personalities with huge egos and want to win. They think every hire will work because they're the ones making it. There's just too much at stake, money, to get it wrong on purpose. The race card is what the liberals running this country have been pushing to divide us. People need to wake up. When those same liberals make the comment that all whites are racist and they just don't know it, that's asinine. All right. Whew, let me go through this a little bit at a time, and then we'll put this segment to bed for a bit. Few things. Number one, owners, as you said, type A personalities with huge egos, and they want to win. No, they want to make money. They don't. Yes, there are. So I believe Jerry Jones wants to win. I do. I believe Jerry Jones wants to win, and I think Jerry Jones is very frustrated the Cowboys aren't. I think there are probably a chunk of the owners who genuinely want to win. But the majority of these owners, they want to make money. They want to make money. That's what they want. That's why they bought teams. Very few billionaires buy teams because they really like the Cowboys, y'all. The majority of owners that buy teams do it because you think Sean Conn was a big fan of the Jaguars before he bought them?
They do it as an investment.
Correct. Sean Conn's not a Jags fan. My dude wasn't sporting teal and black before he bought the Jags. Bought the Jags because there was an investment opportunity and he can make money off of it. How do I know? Because the Jags still suck. They don't suck because Shad Khan's an idiot. He's not. He's a billionaire. They suck because they still make him money via the league. That's what they care about. Number two, there's too much money at stake to get it wrong on purpose. No. Yes, teams that win get more money. But every team makes money. If a franchise lost money, the NFL will be losing money. It's not going to happen. As long as we keep watching, right? People forget, NFL teams don't make money from you being in the stadium on Sunday. That's an enhancement to where they make the money, the television broadcast. And as long as that TV contract keeps coming in for the NFL, they don't care. They don't care. Why do you think the NFL has never cracked down on the Lions for being that bad for that long? Why have they never cracked down on the Jags for being that bad since the last Super Bowl that they were in 100 years ago? The NFL doesn't crack down on bad teams because they still make money. Texter says when those same liberals make the comment that all whites are racist and they just don't know it, that's asinine. Here's the problem. People say, hey, there's an inherent racial discrimination. And in some cases, there are. Can be proven. Okay? And then you look at that and go, oh, you're saying I'm racist. No. I haven't called anybody racist in discussion. I'm saying that on its surface level, there appears to have an inherent racial bias to who becomes the head coach in the NFL and who does not. That's not calling you or NFL owners or anybody else racist. It's just saying there's an inherent racial bias. There's a difference. People bring up problems and everybody goes, you're personally attacking me. No, I'm not. They're attacking the system. And they're trying to divide us. No, they're not. They're trying to say the system is skewed against a group of people who are treated unfairly because of it, and they want it fixed. It's not an attack on you or anybody else. That's what Brian Flores is doing here. He's not trying to divide us. He's going, the system is broken. Here's my evidence that the system is broken. Here's my text. Here's my conversation. Here's the numbers. Can we fix it or not? That's the conversation. And if you run and just go, oh, he's calling all of us racist. Well, of course he's not going to connect with you because you don't want to hear what he has to say. You have told him what his message is. And how many times I've said on the show, don't tell other people what their message is. Hear their message out and then decide on it. When you think Brian Flores is just running around calling everybody racist, he's not. He's saying there's an inherent racial division here. And here's my evidence. That's it. That's all he said. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute. I knew that this was going to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, of course it is. This is the biggest story in the NFL in years. And it may turn out to be nothing burger when it's all said and done. But it's also National College Signing Day today. Who knew? The biggest day on the recruiting calendar is here. We should talk about it. I agree. Let's do it when we come back on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate. All right. Let me hit the restroom and do stuff and off.
Should I combine these breaks? What do you think?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Tayshawn says, now this has me thinking about the Collins situation. I'm not going to lie. When I saw this yesterday, that was the first thing my mind went to. I know it's completely different, players, coaches, etc. But you're right. I mean, just because it's a coach and it's not a player doesn't mean the same underlining problems aren't there, which is why I think Keegan's question has such validity with, is Flores going to get blackballed now? I mean, we all thought Colin had the credentials to stay in the league, and we all think Brian Flores has the credentials to stay in the league. But if history has shown us anything, I guess that doesn't matter much anymore. Man, one of these texts had me confused. Somebody was asking if a demon came out of you or
Because I
you
burped
just
on air.
burped. Did you? I don't even remember. You're good. You got time. I don't know if it necessarily puts Tom's retirement on the back burner, but I mean, the thing with Tom is when that news broke and every single person on earth was talking about it on radio, TV, and etc. yesterday morning about Tom Brady, I mean, there was no arguments for the most part to be had unless you're Lonzo, right? So I feel like as soon as this Flores news came out, it just kind of naturally overtook all the Brady stuff, because what else can we say about Tom Brady that hasn't already been said?
Yeah, like, because I heard somebody say that earlier too, and it's like Tom Brady is going to be celebrated for a long time. Right? He's going to do retirement ceremonies next year with the Bucks. He'll probably do one with the Patriots. He's got a Hall of Fame speech because that dude's going in the minute he's eligible, if they don't make an exception and put him in early. He's going to have his time in the sun. This is a story that is quite literally, even if we only talk about the Stephen Ross side of things, this is a story that accuses the NFL of fixing games. That's huge for $1 billion industry and for the fans.
Fans that put their hard-earned money into going to see these teams play and buying their merch and so on and so forth.
ESPN Upstate. No matter where the ball bounces, we've got your hookup on your radio at 97.7 FM in Greenville and 97.1 FM in Spartanburg on your computer at ESPNUpstate.com.
Most recent texter makes a half decent point. I get where they're coming from.
Oh, I get it. The way you solve it is by shining a light on it and exposing the problem where it is. And again, part of the reason everyone wants to emails out is because look what happened to Gruden, right? Gruden's not a good guy. He's just not a good person.
Yeah.
And Gruden's gone because the light got shined on him. That's why we want the 640,000 emails put out there, because we'll shine a light on a lot of bad people and get them gone. Well, it'll disrupt the NFL. I don't think you understand how much I don't care. The NFL will be fine. There's 100,000 deserving guys out there who could step up in various roles. The NFL would not die
Ever. I mean, at this point, it's such a. I mean, people said the same thing when the Collins stuff was happening. Oh, I'm not going to watch. Oh, this is the end of the NFL. And sure enough, no, it was not. they can lose some viewers, and it really don't hurt their bottom line, really at all.
Yeah, I think combining there was the right thing. We'll have a lot more time on this last segment. Definitely.
Prescription products require an online physician consultation and are only available if the physician determines the prescription is appropriate. Subscription required. See website for full details and important safety information.
Hey guys, good news.
At 250, Rob.
250 left.
Yeah.
Okay.
The generic form of Viagra has the same active ingredient, but is 90% cheaper. And right now, get your first online doctor.
I'm like reading through the National Signing Day update that I'm following, and it's just
constant stuff coming up.
It's like the page refreshes every 10 seconds.
Yeah. I know. I remember a lot of people back in the early signing period. 24/7 did a big like National Signing Day show on YouTube that I watched.
Yep.
And a lot of people were saying, "Oh, does normal signing day even matter anymore?" Yes, of course it does. The regular signing day will always matter. But now you got me wanting to look.
Oh, you know what? Are you on Lonzo's profile on that computer?
I'm on Diesel's.
Okay.
What you need?
So if you can go to my show prep page, I've got the link to the ESPN's National Signing Day composite page, but you can't get to it from there.
Unfortunately.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on? Ready for an oil change? We can help with the right protection at the right price. Right now, you can get 5 quarts of Valvoline.
A&M secured the #1 class of all time. Wow.
All right, we'll take a little break from the Brian Flores story. I suspect we're going to be hearing a lot more about that through the rest of the week as this continues to go in. But it is also National Signing Day 2022, ladies and gentlemen, and we are seeing names coming in from around the country. So far, biggest story of the day as it stands right now came for the Clemson Tigers earlier as ESPN 300 defensive lineman Caden Story, who was originally committed to the Auburn Tigers, had offers from Auburn, FSU, Georgia Tech, Indiana, Kentucky, Maryland, Mississippi State, Missouri, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas A&M, Vandy, and West Virginia, was initially an Auburn commit, but during his signing ceremony today, surprised everybody when he put on the Tiger paw and revealed a Clemson shirt under his jacket. Caden Story is a 6'4", 260-pound defensive end pass rush specialist out of Lynette, Alabama, and Lynette High School. And the Auburn Tigers were very excited to get him in their recruiting class, but he shocks everybody today as he decides to put on the purple and orange. Clemson football tweeted out earlier, another great one from the state of Alabama. Welcome at Caden Story. And that so far is the biggest name that we have seen on signing day today. And obviously we're keeping an eye on these classes as they continue to develop. Some other headlines from around National Signing Day so far. Earlier, Trevante Citizen went with the old, I got to tell you, man, it's always kind of made me laugh. I'm not like a dude who really strictly follows recruiting, right? I follow it in the sense that I have to for this job. I got to know the biggest names that are going to go to the schools that we cover. I don't really follow national recruiting. It's not my bag. These are 17-year-old kids, you know? And also, by the way, as a real quick aside, ladies and gentlemen, do me a favor. Please don't tweet at recruits. Please. Because if you tweet at recruits, I have to automatically dislike you as a person, right?
You got no place doing that. Just leave those kids alone.
Yeah, please don't. Please don't tweet at 17-year-old children about where they decide to play football for school. Please don't do that because it's weird and nobody likes you. All right. If a kid doesn't pick your school, okay, it's okay. Other kids will. Just calm down. Tell Alexa to play some soothing Swedish jazz. You know, have a cigar, drink some bourbon, whatever you got to do. Just take a breath. Anyway, a couple of big names. Javonte Citizen, the number 144th player overall, pulled the old hat stunt today. He had offers from a lot of big schools. Put on a Florida Gator hat, then took it off and threw it away. Put on an LSU hat, got the Tiger fans excited, took it off, threw it away, and ultimately decided to sign with U, emphasis on duh. I can't stand a Miami Hurricane, except for you, Hurricane Jeff. I like you. The rest of y'all, though, no thanks. Number 139 ranked overall player Kristen Miller, defensive tackle, has just announced that he is staying home. He will be playing for the University of Georgia. Ended up with the Bulldogs. How about tight end RJ Maryland? Russell Maryland had one offer earlier in the year, ended up getting a bunch of other Division I offers throughout the last 2 weeks, and decided today to pick SMU, Southern Methodist, picking up one of the most sought-after 4-star tight ends in the country. Oregon is on the book. Jordan James is a running back that has decided to go with Oregon. He had an offer from Georgia, and a lot of folks expected that the Nashville, Tennessee running back, who accumulated over 4,500 career yards in his high school career, was going to be a Bulldog, but pulls the swerve last minute, and Jordan James is heading to Eugene. Defensive end Omari Aber is a member of Ohio State. Now he's out of Texas, and again, thought he was going to be in either a Longhorn or A&M helmet when next year started, but the top 200 defensive end decides Ohio State is going to be where he plays his football. So interesting National Signing Day thus far. Again, we've talked about it a lot. And Lonzo asked me the question, I think Monday, and Owen and I kicked it around a little bit. Alonzo said with the addition of the transfer portal, and you can have guys like Spencer Rattler go out there and change schools from Oklahoma to South Carolina, et cetera, was it going to take the shine off for recruiting, right? I'm going to tell you this. The answer is no. The answer is no, because the guys that we're just mentioning, Jordan James, Caden Story, Omari Aber, these guys, assuming they don't transfer, are 4-year guys, right? 4-year guys. Here's the one difference that I think it changes as far as recruiting goes. I mentioned that from this point forward, a number of times I've said that from this point forward, instead of schools looking at players as resources for their benefit, the new attitude has to be that schools have to look at themselves as resources for players, right? You can no longer go, well, this defensive end will give us 4 years of substitute play, filling in here and there in spots, Now you got to look and go, okay, what can Ohio State give to Omari Aber? What can Ohio State give to a top 100 defensive end when we need a pass rush? And that's what you sell to these kids now. Because if you don't sell that to these kids, other schools will. And if you do sell these things to those kids and you don't live up to what you are selling to them, they will transfer to somewhere else that will, right? What Nick Saban figured out about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and honestly, maybe earlier than that, but really started to vocalize it 4 or 5 years ago. Nick Saban will tell, if you ever listen to any recruiting calls from Nick Saban, right? There's been a couple that kids have recorded and put on the internet. You know what Nick Saban does when he recruits kids now? The GOAT. You know what he does? He goes, here's what Alabama's going to do for you. Here's what I can do. And he doesn't overpromise. If you're going to be a backup, he tells you, I think you're going to be a solid contributor to this team. I think you're going to get good playing time. But more importantly, here's what the University of Alabama can do for you. I remember there was one a couple of years ago where he was talking to a defensive back, and I can't remember the defensive back on the team he used, but it was somebody who went to the league, maybe HaHa Clinton Dix, I think. But he said, we sent HaHa to the league, right? The kid said, yeah. He goes, you want to know why? And he said, because he practiced every day against Amari Cooper, a guy who's also in the league. He said, you come to Alabama and you want to go to the next level, you're going to get tested. Because when you line up in practice every day, you're lining up against guys who are getting drafted. You're lining up against draft picks. The University of Alabama is going to prepare you for the NFL unlike anybody else because everybody on our team is a potential draft pick, unlike other schools. And you could hear that kid's tone like, okay. He figured out that if you tell a recruit, Owen, what the school can do for you instead of what you're going to do for the school, kids are a lot more receptive to that. They just are. And that's why the transfer portal is important. But the most important thing that a coach can do, the most important thing that a school can do is make sure that the kid understands what the school can do for them. That's what recruiting is now. That's it. Let's take a break. We got 1 hour left to go. I have got words for Greg Berhalter again, but I'm not alone. Who's joining me in the call to move on? I'll tell you next on the Rob Brown Show, ESPN Upstate.
My headphones are not working.
I was going to say, you look like you were struggling over there.
It's like I even barely putting it in. I'll get some, and then it'll just keeps cutting in and out. It's really frustrating. You have another pair by chance?
Lonzo has a pair. Yeah, I'll grab them for you.
You're the man. Thank you.
Download the Score app today. Lightning fast sports alerts so you never miss a thing. That's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps.
Oh wow. Will Palachuk just got announced as the international broadcaster for the Charlotte FC games. Yeah, the English language radio announcers for all their matches. Good for him. Wasn't he here before?
I don't know. If he was, it was before me.
Oh, okay.
And you know we would be. You know those people like, they're sadists. They can't walk away from the suffering. We would be number one there. You'd have literally 100% of people saying, I'm not listening to that crap. And then the ratings would come out and we'd have twice what anybody else does.
The Upstate is talking about Offside with Mark Ryan, now 7 p.m. on ESPN Upstate.
It's time for you to profit from the postseason with BetQL's Giving Props Contest. We post some props, you make some picks, and there's $2,000 up for grabs each weekend of the playoffs.
Oh, beautiful.
Everyone who registers has a shot at the $10,000 grand prize. Props, pick, profits from BetQL. It's totally free to enter, so get started now by texting props to 20357. That's props to 20357. Message data rate apply. Call balls at BetQL.com/prop.
Actually, I don't need music.
The third, the final, the best, the money hour. The Rob Brown Show goes now. This is ESPN Upstate. Rob, Owen, and you. I got to tell you, two things hit last night, and both of them made me just go, you got to be kidding me with this. You got to be kidding me with this. The first were Bill Belichick's test messages, which we talked about earlier in the show. If you missed it, grab the Odyssey app, AUDACY, search ESPN Upstate, favorite it, and you can go to the podcast section, and you can actually download podcasts. You go back, listen to the last hour of the show. We'll get those posted right after the show is over. But the thing that killed me the most, mainly out of comedy's sake, the Washington football team has been working on getting all the gear and all the equipment and everything else ready to go to reveal their new name, right? They ended up going with the Commanders, and they made the official announcement this morning. Except for we all knew it last night. Now, what I really loved about it was how it got out, all right? Because there were like 3 different things that happened. First off, Joe Theismann, who, of course, famous for being a quarterback for the Washington football team before it was known under that moniker, did an interview earlier in the week. And Theismann has had some moments on the air where I've gone, Joe, you're not exactly the world's best spokesman for having a drink to take the edge off. You know what I mean? I'm going to kiss you in the mouth. My Theismann impression threw me off there. Anyway. Theismann did an interview on the radio earlier in the week and was asked about the new name. And he said, I think it's going to be good. And I think the fans will embrace the name Commanders. And everybody was like, huh? Commanders? Is that it? Is that definitely it? And it was a bit of a hint. Then on social media, a bunch of pictures of Commanders gear started dropping. Now, that by itself, I think would have gotten dismissed, right? Because we've seen a lot of mock-ups of Red Wolves and Admirals and all these different names that were allegedly being considered by the Washington football team. But the fact that it dropped with the name Commanders on it, hours after Joe Theismann said, I think the fans will get behind the name Commanders, was incredible. But then the cherry on top of the freaking sundae. The Washington football team has an HQ outside of FedEx Field. Has like the team store in it and their museum or whatever it is to the Washington football team. Well, they dressed it last night or the day before. They dressed the inside of it in Commanders gear. And if you haven't seen the logos yet, a lot of the fonts are like kind of military stencil look. It's effectively a name to pay homage to the U.S. military and the armed forces with this name and the logo. So anyway, they dressed up the facility in it. Well, a news channel out of the District of Columbia sent a helicopter up over the team facility hours before the announcement was to be made the night before. And the helicopter, which was not equipped with a giant buzzsaw, but instead with a video camera, which in this case may have been more dangerous, zoomed in through the window of the HQ connected to FedEx Field. And when they zoomed in through the window, they were able to see plastered on the wall in giant gold letters over a set of burgundy stripes that said Washington, the name Commanders. Now, does it really ultimately matter all that much that the name Commanders got out before the Washington football team could put it into place? Not really. To me, though, it's just amusing because every successful coach at the NFL level that you've ever heard, go back and read books by Sean Payton or Bill Belichick or Jimmy Johnson or any of the head coaches that have been legacy successful in the NFL. I've read a bunch of them, Owen. And there's effectively one theme that translates between all those coaches. And that one theme is attention to detail, right? Attention to detail. Bill Belichick has said it. Sean Payton has said it. All these great coaches have said attention to detail. They've all got different styles. I have plenty of video of Sean Payton dancing a Choppa style inside the Saints locker room. Bill Belichick's about as buttoned up, hoodie and tie as you could ask him to be. But they all say attention to detail is what gets it done. And the Washington Commanders, in rolling out this name, paid no attention to detail. None.
Not at all.
They told Joe Theismann, who has a history of having himself a little liquor, getting on the radio, getting on television, doing dumb things. And they're like, hey, Joe, can you keep the biggest secret of the last 2 years that we've had? No, he can't. Now, I know he's a legend. I know you want him involved in all this. But if there's one guy that's a previous player you don't tell if you don't want this out, it's Joe Theismann, with all due respect to Joe. The fact that there were people able to take pictures of their gear before they distributed it, right? Before they distributed it and put it on the internet. That's a fail, right? That's a fail.
Just bad quality control.
Yeah. And then the fact that you posted the name in giant block stencil letters in front of a window, right? I got to tell you, on the list of things inside of my house that I would keep a secret behind that I didn't want to get out in the public, guys, window is the very last item on the list. I would put my couch in front of it. I would put my TV in front of it. I would put my bed in front of it. Do you know what I wouldn't put out in front of something that I wanted to keep a secret? I would not put a window facing the outside world in front of it. Look, at the end of the day, again, it's not a big deal, right? This isn't the playbook. This isn't their next round of coaching hires. This isn't any big free agents that they're talking and working in a contract and letting the details get out there so somebody can outbid them. It's the name of the team, which they were going to release 12 hours later. But the fact that you put this top secret name that you have tried so hard to keep out of the public eye until it was time to release it, right? Which basically means we're trying to keep it a secret so that when we put it out there, fans don't riot and go, this is so stupid, I'm not supporting this, before you even release it. That's the strategy here. I've worked in PR. If you got to put out something you know people aren't going to like, you do two things. Number one, you put it out at the very last possible moment, so there's as little time as possible for people to react negatively publicly. And number two, you put it out on the heels of some really bad news. Now, the good news for the Washington Commanders was that this all happened a few minutes after the Brian, or at least the window shot happened a few minutes after the Brian Flores news dropped. So the Washington Commanders story kind of got buried by the Brian Flores lawsuit. Washington screwed this up. Now, to be honest with you, the name's not awful, right? Is it any worse than Eagles or Tigers or Bengals?
How much cooler would it have been, though, if they were just like, you know what? We're done with all the speculation. Let's just stay the football team.
Oh, that's what I wanted.
That was 100% what I wanted, too.
I thought it was a dope name. I thought it was a great name. The Washington Football Team. It's a great name.
And completely unique.
Yeah. Nobody else has got anything like it. It's crazy identifiable. It's got a ring to it. It makes you stand out. To me, it's got a level of prestige to it. Now, I understand why they didn't, because the biggest criticism was you're not a European football club, right? But again, it would have been the single most unique name in the National Football League. Why are you obligated to have a mascot? You're not. That's just how it's always been done, right? To me, people who step out of lines and break traditions are not heretics. They're trailblazers, right? Now, you can go too far with it, I think. Sure. It's true of everything. But people who step out and do things that are different are trailblazers. I would have probably, there had been a part of me that would have had a soft spot for the Washington Football Team had they decided to just be that name, because I like it. I think it's a dope name. It's unique. It's special. It's identifiable. You don't need a logo. We are the football team. We're the saying. We are the football team, right? Everybody gets upset when Ohio State says the Ohio State University. We all make fun of it. But we all make fun of it in a certain kind of way. But that's their thing. Ohio State fans never shy away about yelling the Ohio State University. Every time there's an NFL game and they do the little graphics at the bottom where they have the players introduce themselves, right? For inexplicable reasons, they're looking down at the floor and then they pick their head up. Why do they do that? What? They're looking at the floor and then they go, Rob Brown, University of West Florida. And don't get me wrong, the player graphics with the players introducing themselves I think are kind of cool. Like you get a face with a name as opposed to just a helmet with a number under it. You get a face, and that's awesome. But why do they always look at the floor and then pick their heads up? They just need movement?
That's got to be like the videographer's decision. Like, look, guys, you have to make it look like, you know.
Oh, there's the camera.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I thought I was just going to. Rob Brown, University of West Florida. Oh, the camera's over here. Rob Brown, University of West Florida. Right? Like what? Like why? Anyway, it's just of a lack of attention to detail. And I got a feeling I don't know Ron Rivera personally, right? I know some of you guys around here do because when he was with Carolina, obviously, he was very good. In fact, Lonzo will still tell you this story that you know when ESPN Upstate was getting off the ground, because every year we ride over to Wofford and we cover Panther training camp in person. And Lonzo told the story about how the first year, you know, they interviewed Ron Rivera, and then in year number 2, Ron walked by a year later and went, Lonzo, what's up, man? Like he remembered him and knew him and said hello to him. That's attention to detail. That's the little things. You know why Sean McVay's in his second Super Bowl? There's a video going around. I've talked about it on the air before. I think I played the audio from it years ago, where there's a radio host in LA who's interviewing Sean McVay. And he asked him about like specific plays from his first year as a head coach. And he's like, all right, week 11, you're playing Washington, third quarter, 2.5 minutes left. What was the play? And McVay's like, okay, that was a wheel route to so-and-so, picked up 7 yards, went out of bounds on the right sideline. So we knew the clock was stopped and we had the long side of the field to the left. So we set up the strong formation there. And the next play was this. And he's like, he knows these things. And granted, that's a superhuman level of genius, but it's also an immaculate attention and retention of details that they have. And this is just the Washington football team blowing it. The name's not bad. All right. I don't care. Like it doesn't, it's just whatever to me. Like I appreciate the tip of the cap to the military and the armed forces. I appreciate that. Honestly, I kind of think the military stencil letters are kind of dope. Like I kind of like them. It's a rugged look. It's a good look. I like it. I don't really hate it. But the fact that this was the thing that they had been trying so hard to keep out of the public eye. And again, I think it was so that whenever they released the name, they knew they were going to get backlash. It didn't matter what they picked. Whatever they picked was going to get backlash from the majority of Washington fans who wanted them to go back to using the old name. They were trying to minimize the amount of time that people had to react negatively to it. So the fact, because what was going to happen was at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. or whatever it was, they were going to say, hey, everybody, Washington Commanders. And then they immediately actually thought this was kind of cool. They had a fleet of cars wrapped with the Commanders logo under it. And they started driving around D.C., Owen, chunking Commanders gear to fans walking down the street. That's kind of dope. What a better way to get your name out than going, hey, fans, here's your new Commanders t-shirt. Here's a Commanders jersey. Here's a Commanders visor, hat, whatever. Cool. They ingratiate themselves with the community, and they have fans out there. Because I don't know about you, Owen, if I buy a new shirt, I'm rocking it that day. All right?
Same way.
Which means DC downtown was going to be full of Washington fans rolling around in Commanders gear. It's going to make them look good, right? Except for they blew it. And the name got out. Now, I'm going to play one little bit of audio for you. If you don't mind, Owen, turning the audio up on this computer, which is co-host, the co-host logo. Yeah. So a group. Oh, no, never mind. Not that one. Well, I'll figure it out through break. Anyway, a group of fans were outside of the arena today, and they were there to pick up all their Washington Commanders gear. And don't get me wrong, I don't fault them for it, all right? Except for his group of about 7 fans that are lined up outside the team store to grab. In fact, Owen, if you go to my Twitter account, I retweeted it. You can go there. Group of about 7 fans stood outside of the Commanders shop early this morning to pick up their new Washington Commanders gear. And they decided to try to come up with a new chant for the Washington Commanders. Now, I don't fault diehard fans, right? I don't fault diehard fans. If you are diehard enough that you were like, it does not matter what name my team picks, I'm going to show up that morning and pick up the t-shirt, I'm not making fun of that. Except for when they lined up to come up with the Washington Commanders chant. The 7 fans who showed up to pick up their new gear from the team store sounded like this.
We are Commanders.
Okay, you can kill it. You can kill it. Because they try to sell, we are Commanders, bum, 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 bum. You know, the insurance policy jingle with we are the Commanders in front of it. Unbelievable. Now, don't get me wrong. Being creative's hard, right? Being creative's hard. I got to be creative when I put a show together every day. And there are days that I just go, because I'm struggling with what to say. That's more than just football good, lacrosse bad, right? Like you know what I mean? But this is just a bad look for the Washington Commanders because the name got early. The name got out early, right? The name got out early. Fans started reacting to it because they had hours between finding out their new name was the Commanders and the gift shop opening. The majority of fans who aren't on board with the name were like, I'm not buying that. Whereas if you would have revealed the name to them as they showed up at the shop, you'd probably got a few more there. Instead, you got 7 fans going, we are Commanders. Awkward pause while they turn the phone around to the other 6 people who then, in a disorganized chaos, go, bum, 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 bum.
Terrible.
It's a bad look, man. It's a bad look. Texter says that chant is so weak from Allen. I got to assume that next year, when we tune into the first Washington Commanders game, I'm not going to hear FedEx rocking the Farmers Insurance jingle as their fight song. I got to assume the Commanders are going to put the kibosh on that real quick. But the fact that you set all of this up by just not, covering up a window. Here, I'll TMI you real quick. When Rob Brown's at the house by himself, Rob Brown's known to walk around without pants on because it's my house and screw you, I do what I want to. All right? I'm known to rock around Donald Duck in it, Porky Pig in it a little bit. Do you know what the first thing I do before I decide to remove my pants and, not want to show the world the thing I don't want them to see? Close the windows. Just close the windows. All Washington had to do was close a window. And instead, they blew it. And they look like this today. Oh, and I set up 20 minutes worth of jokes just to play We Are Commanders.
Oh my God, it's awful. It's absolutely awful. And there's another clip under this of them doing something else that I haven't quite heard yet that I'm very interested to listen to, Darren Marek.
Yeah, I feel like we have run the risk of playing audio without screening it first. I just happened to watch this one before the show. Anyway, we will be right back. I have got some words for U.S. Soccer as they've got a must-win against Honduras tonight, and I go into it with about 3% confidence. I'll tell you what I mean when we come back on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate. Bum, 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 bum.
Good. Oh, man. I got to listen to this. Hold up.
Oh, I watched this one too. It's cringy. It's cringy.
We are the Commanders.
This is terrible. It's terrible. Oh man. Tayshawn, appreciate that. We do our best. Well, I don't know if we do our best necessarily. Try to.
If you suffer from chronic joint pain, don't assume that steroid shots, pain pills, and surgery are your only options. You can now get
We'll be back, folks.
life-changing relief from QC Kinetics. Hey, everybody, it's Johnny James. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in using biologic therapies to repair damaged tissue in your aching joints. The success rate is staggering. People with knee and back pain, shoulder pain, hip pain, they're moving again. They're enjoying life again. And you will too with the help from QC Kinetics. This advanced, unique treatment protocol uses natural biologic agents, mostly from your own body. These powerful, highly concentrated growth factors are put directly into your affected joint, going to work to soothe the inflammation and restore damaged tissue. A truly regenerative treatment. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. Finally, a new, different, highly successful approach to dealing with joint pain. Isn't it time you got a second opinion? Call QC Kinetics now and wake up to a life without pain. Call them today here in Greenville and Asheville. 864-448-3772. Don't wait. 864-448-3772.
Sure, we have 30 seconds to tell you that drivers who switch to Progressive could save big. But then what? Well, we could try to fill our remaining time with awkward pauses, something done for comedic effect. Is it working? I can't tell if this is funny. Maybe this is so bad it's funny. Wow, we really peaked at the save big when you switched to Progressive parts. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company.
Cutting the price of your wireless bill feels good. Really good. So good, you gotta try it. With Straight Talk, you can get our Silver Unlimited plan for just $45 a month. Now with unlimited high-speed data, plus 5 gigabytes hotspot data, and no contract, with nationwide 5G on America's best networks. Why pay a whole lot for your data when you can get unlimited for a whole lot less? Straight Talk Wireless, available at Walmart and Walmart.com. 5G capable device required. Actual availability covered and speed may vary. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com.
Cincinnati and LA play in the big game next weekend, and you can play for $10,000 with BetQL's Giving Props contest. Pick which players will go over or under, and the most right answers can win $2,000. Everyone who registers has a shot at the $10,000 grand prize. Props, picks, perfect.
We are Commanders. Bum, 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 bum. I'm just gonna say that about everything from now on. We are Eagles. Bum, 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 bum.
The fact that they doubled it up and we are the Commanders. The
Dude, you know, that slogan only works with a 2-syllable word. Like you can't even say like we are the Colts. Like it doesn't even work like that.
It doesn't work at all. You want? I got all this soccer audio for you for this segment.
Okay, perfect.
Damn, Herc went off on him again.
Yeah. Hart did, Kornheiser did, Stephen A. Smith did. When you get all 4 of us technically on the same page, because Wilbon did too.
Oh my
He done
gosh.
screwed up. Texter says, like a good neighbor, Commanders are there. Texter says, Commanders sound like the third team added to the Harlem Globetrotters League. Yeah, the Washington Generals had enough getting their asses kicked, so it's up to the Commanders now. Texter says, go Durs, baby. I do like that Twitter has already exploded with calling them the commies. That's great. The Washington commies out of DC. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful smack. All right, another texter says they should have been the Washington Charmanders. Kids love Pokemon, and adults view them more favorable than politicians. It's correct. It's correct. I'm still known to dabble in the old Pokemon Go if I'm walking around downtown. I could have got behind the Washington Charmanders, and more unique than the Commanders.
Might have gotten less backlash, too.
Yeah. The Washington Charmanders. Beautiful, beautiful. I've told you guys this in the past. When you manage to get me and Stephen A. Smith on the same page, yelling about the same thing, something's wrong. Team USA Soccer beat El Salvador 1-0 last week in a game that, frankly, they were rescued by Anthony Jedi Robinson. Rescued with a goal. That wasn't even like a well-crafted goal. Just happened to fortunately bounce to the feet of the Jedi, and he forced one, see what I did there, into the net. Then they went to Canada. And, well, I'd tell you what I think about the game. But instead, I got clips. I'm going to start with 1D here, if you don't mind, Owen. I'm going to start with Herculez Gomez, former U.S. national player. And Herc has been an outspoken critic of this team, so it's no shock that he did it again. But my dude is getting to the point that you can hear the genuine, not like showbiz rage. And then there's, I'm not cool with what's happening here. Herc dropped everything on Greg Berhalter this morning.
I saw Team 18 losing the ball from the goal kick and then having it shoved right back down their throats. I don't know what Greg Berhalter was watching when he said he was dominant in this, where he's pleased by the performance, not the results. I don't think you can be pleased with either.
I wonder if you saw on Twitter some of the Berhalter out crowd was out in force after this one. I wonder if that's the right conversation we could be having, though, because if you look back after the win over Mexico, Herc, I felt like the pendulum of U.S. fans was swinging towards a place where people thought Greg Berhalter might be the guy to take this team to the next level, to get the best out of this team. After last night's performance, I feel like, and this is just, going off what we see on social media, the pendulum has swung back to, I don't know if he's the guy. Where are you on that?
Sep, he's not going to be fired. He's sitting second place in World Cup qualifying. This is U.S. soccer we're talking about. He's not going to be fired. But we have to seriously acknowledge how much he's holding this team back, how much he's hampering this team's progression. You look at a guy like Greg Berhalter, who's about stats, who's about PowerPoint, who doesn't feel it. This team is soft, and that's on Greg Berhalter. They may be more talented on paper than the past generations.
Why isn't that on the players? Why isn't it on the players?
It's also on the players.
Soft. Come
it's
on.
also on the players, but who picks the players? Who picks the tactics? Who tries to set them up to succeed?
Are there not soft players that Berhalter's leaving out? And would you name them? Go ahead. Who are they?
Soft players?
Not soft players that you wanted to call out.
You think Josh Sargent playing out of his comfort zone as a winger in the Premier League is soft? You think John Brooks fighting every single day is soft? You think John Brooks having to read everything he reads about himself, then still going after and perform is soft? These are guys who were left out, Seb. Okay? These are guys who are left out. Greg Berhalter has a soft team, and that's on him. They may be more talented than the generations of past, maybe more, but there's no fight. There's no urgency. There certainly is no spirit. If you're going to hang your hat on those 3 Mexico wins, if that's all you have to say about your tenure, if that's really who you are, then why go to Qatar? Because from what we've seen today, it's not going to get any better in Qatar.
So, Herc says the team is soft, and that's on Berhalter. It's not that the team is soft like they're soft players. The team plays soft, right? The team plays soft. And it is on Greg Berhalter, because Berhalter's attitude is pass laterally until I get the exact tactics on the field that I want. And Canada said, we're going to let you pass laterally. What we're not going to do is put our guys in the spots you want them in to attack. That was the game plan. And Tony Kornheiser went on the road as well. Let me do this, actually. Let me play clip 1C. Because I thought, yesterday we talked about Greg Berhalter's comments about dominating this game. And I want them in context. So here's the audio. Here's what Greg Berhalter said after losing to Canada 0-2.
I think it was an entire team effort that was outstanding. We asked them to be dominant. We asked them to embrace the conditions, embrace the physicality of the opponent. And I think we did that and more. It's hard for me to remember a performance away from home this dominant without getting a result. So, Yeah, the result hurts. The performance doesn't hurt. I'm proud of the guys, proud of the way they competed.
No.
That is such poor coaching. I mean, to sit there and say this is one of the most dominant road performances he can remember in a 2-0 loss. Come on, dude.
The problem that I have with it is he effectively claimed that possession is domination. It's not. It's not. And Tony Kornheiser, clip 1B, Tony Kornheiser this morning or yesterday afternoon on PTI said the exact same thing that I did. It's not domination to possess the ball. When Canada's game plan was very obviously, let you possess it as long as you want, as long as you don't do anything with it. Here's Tony.
Happy trails to yesterday's World Cup qualifier for the U.S. men. The United States national team lost to Canada 2-0 yesterday in Ontario. It's the first time Canada's beaten the U.S. in a World Cup qualifier in, 42 years. U.S. coach Greg Berhalter said, among other things, quote, "It's hard for me to remember a performance away from home this dominant without getting a result," unquote. Berhalter also said, quote, "They couldn't handle our physicality," unquote, making you wonder if Berhalter glanced up at the score. The U.S. outshot Canada 13-8 and possessed the ball far longer. So what? The next qualifier is against Honduras on Wednesday in St. Paul.
I mean, Tony, what does he want? Does he want it to be judged? Does he want us to be like figure skating? Then go to the Winter Olympics. What a dopey thing to say.
That was my feeling.
Unbelievable.
It's 2-0.
Win the
What are
game,
you talking
dude.
about exactly?
Win the game.
Thank you. Thank you, Kornheiser and Wilbon. Because you said to the masses what I said too. It is not domination to own the possession when Canada's entire strategy was, you can have the ball as long as you want, as long as you're going left and right, not forward and backwards. And as soon as the Americans tried to go forwards and backwards, which they only did a handful of times, because in Berhalter's style of play, it is not about creating opportunities with better athletes. And Berhalter's style of play is, I want this player here, and this player here, and this player here, and then you pass from there to there, and you pass from there to there, and you run from there to there, and then you pass. And if anything else happens, it's not my style. And that's what he's coached. So we don't get to see Ricardo Pepi create. We don't get to see Christian Pulisic. Christian Pulisic at Chelsea helps create. Now, he's been on a downslide. It's going to happen to every player, but he creates at Chelsea. And that's why you have other guys like Mason Mount able to pick up extra goals. In America, for Team USA, in Berhalter's system, it's you go there, you stand there, you wait there, and then when the ball goes here, then you go there, and you stand there and you wait there. Zero creativity, which means we don't get to use our best athletes as our best athletes.
I mean, at the end of the day, Canada very seriously Jose Mourinho'd the United States. They went up and they were like, "Oh, you want all that possession on your half? Take it.
Yeah.
Take it. Come at us." And they were prepared defensively. They went on the counter with elite pace and purpose, right? Like you've said since the other day when we first talked about this, possession does not matter. It's what you do with that possession in the final third of the soccer field. Once you get towards the 18-yard box, that's what matters. And the United States simply has not been good at that almost this entire World Cup qualifying stage. They haven't been able to finish when they've gotten good chances. Certain guys aren't finishing. And in my opinion, you're leaving out some of your best options despite how young they are. I mean, Pifak, why is he not there? Why is he not there? I mean, Ferreira, I think he's great and he's there, but he's not getting playing time. I mean, I don't understand Berhalter. I don't understand his tactics. And I have a bad feeling about the Honduras game tonight, which is, by the way, in St. Paul, Minnesota, and it's going to be absolutely freezing.
Yeah, 0 degrees, because that's what we decided to do, which, again, negates the speed advantage that we have over a team that, by the way, is already eliminated. They can't qualify. They're out. But we're going to negate our speed advantage against a slower, lesser team by playing in 0 degrees because reasons, I guess. I'll tell you the truth. I don't even hate Berhalter's roster construction for this round. It's not awful. It's not perfect, but it's not awful. Here's the problem I do have. Now, before you soccer heads get on me, because Ricardo Pepi has not scored a goal in his last 500 minutes of club play. Okay? I get it. Ricardo's on a backslide too. But Ricardo in the last cycle of U.S. men's national team qualifying was aces. Right? In a system where you already have guys that only play with each other for about a month at a time, every couple of months, it's hard enough. But when you are so formulatic and you decide, and by the way, this is the hypocrisy that killed me. Giassi Zardes got to start in that game. Zardes is a cleanup guy. He's a guy that sprints forward into the box faster than the guy marking him and picks up the dirty plays and nets him. And I'm cool with that. But why against El Salvador did Pepe see the ball in limited play? And why did he not come off the bench at all? In Canada, why is he not starting? The one spot that has killed us is we don't have a number 9. We don't have a striker, period. Except Ricardo Pepe's right there, who killed it the last round, not doing anything. I can't understand it. Last clip, let's take a break. Clip 1A. Because it takes a lot to get me and Stephen A. Smith. Stephen, self-admittedly, doesn't know a ton of soccer, right? But Stephen A. Smith was talking to Taylor Twellman on one of the 10,000 shows Stephen A. Smith does, and he said this.
Dan Wright should be more pressure on him. I'm looking at him with a raised eyebrow, and I barely know soccer. So I'm imagining everybody who knows soccer, such as yourself and others, are looking at him with a raised eyebrow. The fact that you would say dominant, I'm just looking at him right now. You got shut out 2-0 for crying out loud. I'm looking at him and I'm saying to myself, why is he the coach of this team? Am I being a bit overzealous? Am I being a bit unfair in questioning that right now when I look at a man that got shut out and wants to applaud his team for doing such a great job losing?
Bingo. Now, Stephen A. Smith, unlike me, yells his opinions a lot. I, on the other hand, always calm, cool, collected, reserved. But Stephen A. Smith's right. Those comments were ridiculous. You know what they sounded like to me? It sounds like if you went into a restaurant and you ordered a medium rare hamburger with ketchup, lettuce, mayo, pickles, and a Coke. And the cook brought out a steak with a slice of cheese on it and a water and gave it to you. And you went, whoa, all of this is wrong. All of this is wrong. None of this is right. And he goes, wait. There is cheese on it. You did ask for that. Bro, you screwed up everything. Everything is royally screwed up here. You don't get credit for the one little thing that's right, possession, when everything else is bad. It's not how it works. Berhalter sounds like a guy who knows that he screwed up and is just looking for the slightest little thing, and he's going to focus on only that. Like the only thing we should be taking away from a 2-0 loss to Canada. Canada's a good team. But Canada, paper, roster, Canada's not better on the paper than we are. In fact, if anything, we are better than the Canadians on paper. We are, just on paper. If you laid the rosters out and said which one wins, it's us 90% of the time. Berhalter knows that, and he knows he screwed up. And he knows the plan was bad, and he knows the lineup was bad, and he knows the strategy was bad, but he's going to hang on the only thing that even, and frankly, it's not even that good. Because again, if I could break down the numbers of the 60 whatever percent possession that we had and go, what percentage of that 62% was spent on the attacking third? I promise you it's about 15%, 20%, right? Which means that about 15% of the game is a total. Did we have possession in the attacking third with a threat, with a chance? That's not good, Greg. As Kornheiser pointed out, you don't get credit for possession on your own third when Canada's game plan was to allow you possession in your own third and prevent a run. And we never even tried it. I'm with Owen. I don't feel good about tonight. I don't feel good. And if we lose this game, we drop to third and threaten dropping to 4. And keep in mind, in the next cycle, we got 2 away games. One's at Mexico. Ooh, not great. Not great. And the other one's at Panama, which is the other team threatening to boot us and make us go play in a qualifying match. The odds are still in our favor to qualify.
Not if they lose tonight.
Not if they lose tonight.
They'll
Lose tonight, we drop below 50-50.
And they'll have to pick up points in both of those last 2 qualifying games, which at this rate,
Good
the way
luck.
we've seen him perform, yeah, you're right. Good luck.
Good luck. Let's take a break. Come back. We got one more segment, then Twitter to wrap it up on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate.
You want to combine again or no?
No, not here. Just do a real quick little segment.
Gotcha.
Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified
You know, part of me thinks that Berhalter is hearing all of us and they're going to come out and win like 4 or 5-0 tonight.
I hope so.
I really do. But then that little back half of my mind is like, they're going to lose 1-0 tonight on some crappy goal because they let a leak through in defense and they can't break through in that final third again. Boy.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I hope we do. I hope we do, and we put everybody else on notice. But the problem is, Berhalter does this thing. I've worked with people like this. Hell, I, to some degree, used to be like this. You walk up to somebody and go, you're doing a crappy job, and you break a boot off in their ass. You're going to get the best effort they got the next time out. The problem with that is you got to stay with the boot up the ass for them to keep doing what you need them to do. Because the second you go, hey, man, great job. You're doing better. Great job. They go right back to what they were doing before. And I get the feeling that's the case with Berhalter, right? Like Berhalter's going to go out there. One of two things is going to happen tonight. I don't see a draw tonight. We're going to lose 1-0 or we're going to win 4-0.
Yep.
It's one or the other, right? And if we lose 1-0, I think at that point I just got to go, we're done. I don't even want to go to the World Cup because we're going to get knocked out in the knockout stage and it's going to be embarrassing and it's going to set soccer back. It's better we don't even go and just restart.
Yep.
If we win 4-0, Berhalter goes, okay, we got the winner to the bag. Let's go back to my style of football. And then in the last window, which is the most important, we go lose to Mexico. We go lose at Panama. We get maybe the 3 out of the, what's the home match? I think Costa Rica. Yeah. We get maybe the 3 out of Costa Rica at home. And we end up in 4th and have to go win a do or die against a decent New Zealand team in Qatar to qualify.
None of it is positive.
Tayshawn, appreciate you, man. That's very kind of you, buddy. Hope you're having a good time. That's the goal. Despite the first hour and 30 minutes being very intense, we really do try to have a good time here.
Heck, we were having a good time even though it was intense.
Yeah, right. I was. I like those conversations. Just
too.
people take them so seriously. Like it's not a personal insult, dude.
Silver unlimited plan from Straight Talk. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no comment. Unlike people's 30 days, see terms and conditions at straighttalk.com. 5G cable gigabytes required. Actual and origin speed.
Carlos Roofing Company always goes above and beyond. Indeed can help her hire great people fast. Indeed you do. Instant Match instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, couple of quick notes before we get out of here. Get you to Twitter trending topics to wrap up this bad boy. Number 1, learned earlier today that Connor Shaw is out at South Carolina. Connor Shaw had joined the Gamecocks under Will Muschamp. Obviously, holds a lot of South Carolina passing records under his time at Steve Spurrier. Had been on Shane Beamer's staff, but Connor Shaw has left in order to, as far as I understand it, pursue other business opportunities. I don't know where they are, what that means. It's not our business per se. But Connor Shaw is out at South Carolina. The other interesting note, Joe Brady, former offensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers, is joining the Buffalo Bills as their quarterbacks coach, if I remember that correctly. He'll be coaching Josh Allen next year, and I kind of got to tell you, I like it.
That's such a good fit, man.
I like it.
I mean, what a way to reboot your career. I mean, after all the negative stuff, after honestly being a scapegoat for Matt Rule at this point, I think we can agree on that. For the most part, he wasn't terrible. He just didn't have the best personnel, and now he gets to go coach one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now.
In an offense that is perfectly suited for him. Brian, listen, Joe Brady's going to be a quarterback coach for 1 year, and then he's going to be an offensive coordinator somewhere. All right. That's just how it's going to go. I would have taken a small bet on Joe Brady being an offensive coordinator this offseason. But I think there were some teams that were a little afraid in case it was genuinely Brady and not Matt Rule. He's going to go to Buffalo. Josh Allen is going to keep in mind, Joe Brady was the offensive coordinator when Joe Burrow lit the entire college football world on fire with arguably the best college offense we've ever seen with him and Jamar. Josh Allen is going to be phenomenal paired up with Joe Brady. And I suspect Brady's going to have quite a bit to say about what the Buffalo Bills offense looks like next year. That's a great hire for Buffalo. And they're going to get him for 1 year because somebody else is going to take a flyer on that kid as the OC. And in 2 years or 3 years down the road, Carolina's going to look back, especially if Matt Rule's not there anymore, and go, oops.
I'd also like to add in here that, on top, yes, he's a quarterback's coach and the receivers don't necessarily matter that much to him, but when you're coaching quarterback, his weapons do matter if you're thinking about it. And of course, he's got Stephon Diggs, who I absolutely love watching Diggs play. But we saw the emergence of Gabriel Davis against the Kansas City Chiefs. He was the highest. I think he had the most receiving yards in that entire game by a lot. That dude is making $850,000 next year. That's it.
I would like to make that too. Real quick, couple more notes. GM of the Saints, Mickey Loomis, confirmed the Saints have interviewed external head coaching candidates, including Brian Flores. Said they have 2 to 3 candidates still coming in, including internal candidate Dennis Allen, the current defensive coordinator. Loomis confirmed that Brian Flores informed the Saints ahead of time that yesterday's lawsuit will be coming. He said Flores told them that this was happening. Then they did the interview, said Flores is an impressive candidate, and the Saints are serious about him as a candidate. So just kind of keep that timeline going strong. A couple of texts on the Preferred Home Services text line at 71307. Texter says, it is rarely mentioned that Giovanni Reyna has missed virtually all the qualifiers, possibly the best player, including Pulisic, who is struggling. Yeah, we haven't really seen a lot of Gio Reyna either. I'm kind of at a point, if I got to set the lineup tonight, I'm putting Pepe, Pulisic, Reyna all up front. I'm putting all three up front. Let's make magic, man. Let's have creativity. Let's rely on our athleticism. The problem is that nullified by the Colt? I don't know. And finally, the text says Washington Football Club is way, way better than the Commanders. Yep. Let's take a break. We'll come back in a minute with Twitter trending topics. Bum, 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 right here on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate.
Meteorologist Jennifer Woodcheat Smith was in Upstate. Currently, it's 46.
Radio.com is now Odyssey. Download the Odyssey app and listen to ESPN Upstate and all the sports, news, music, and podcasts. Doing for you and your people do everything possible to see that it gets all in one place. It's the Odyssey app for ESPN Upstate. Odyssey is your new home for all the audio that matters to you. Download the Odyssey app today. All the sports you love. And listen to ESPN Upstate.
Let's face it, credit cards are pretty much a necessity.
New tires for the car? Here's my card.
I order takeout, use my card. And most of us just accept the high interest rates credit cards charge as a necessary evil.
What are you going to do?
Get a low fixed rate credit card consolidation loan from Lightstream from $5,000 to $100,000 and pay off those credit card balances. Apply online and you can get your money as soon as the day you apply. The average credit card company charges over 19% APR, but with Lightstream, you can get a fixed rate as low as 4.98% APR with auto pay and excellent credit.
Now I can pay off my high interest credit cards and save money at a much lower rate.
Apply today at lightstream.com/radio and get an additional interest rate discount. That's lightstream.com/radio. Lightstream.com/radio.
Subject to credit approval rates range from 4.98% APR to 19.99% APR, including 0.5% on credit. Most rate requires excellent credit. Terms and conditions apply. Offers are subject to change without notice. Visit lightstream.com/radio for more information.
There's nothing worse than coming home from a cold day to find
out that your heater isn't working. When this happens, you need an HVAC company you can trust. A company like Priority Heating and Air. Their HVAC specialists will give your system a thorough checkup. And if you need a new unit, Priority Heating and Air is a proud distributor of the Coleman line of HVAC systems. Keep your family or business warm this winter and give Priority Heating and Air a call today at 591-1847 or online at PriorityHeatingandAirHVAC.com. Golfers, the best upstate deal on golf is back and on sale now. The 2022 Upstate Golf Card gets you a round of golf at 10 premier upstate courses, and it's still only $99. Grab your foursome and get your Upstate Golf Cards now to play courses including the Preserve at Verde, Willow Creek, Legacy Pines, Carolina Springs, and more. Order at the Upstate.
I got 3. You know, that should be plenty, don't you?
Yeah,
think?
that should be more than cool.
UpstateGolfCard.com. UpstateGolfCard.com.
Mark, you there?
Nah. With just one spray of Microban 24, your hard surfaces are sanitized for up to 24 hours. Touch after touch after touch.
So 6 hours from now?
Still sanitized.
12 hours?
Yep.
18 hours?
We're really doing it.
24 hours.
When used as directed, one spray of Microban keeps killing 99.9% of bacteria. Touch after touch for, up to 24 hours.
Wow.
Microban 24. The sanitizer 4 out of 5 doctors are using their own homes. So why aren't you?
You're always up for some fun with the family. So order the essentials, a new board game, some baking supplies, and even a new projector for outdoor movie night. And with the Bank of America customized cash rewards credit card, you can choose to earn 3% cash back on online shopping, which could increase up to 5.25% as a preferred rewards member. Rewards which you can put toward an extra treat that everyone will enjoy, like an old-fashioned popcorn machine. Visit bankofamerica.com/more-rewarded and apply now. Copyright 2021 Bank of America Corporation.
Hey, Ray Magliozzi here. Have you ever cooked a really fine homemade meal? Yeah, me neither. But I'm told it all comes down to ingredients. And when I need ingredients to improve my car, the place I go is eBay Motors. Whether you roasted your last transmission, raising up on a lamppost, eBay Motors has the right parts at the right prices. And by the way,
Somebody just tweeted, Bill Belichick texted the Washington Capitals to congratulate them on their new name.
Oh, that joke's not going away anytime soon. I love that. Tayshawn says Bill's going to the Super Bowl next year. I'm guessing, at least. I'm calling it. Don't know that I disagree with you, partner.
I don't hate it.
Wow, it depends on how Burrow and Cincy looks. Honestly, and what they do in the offseason, they get that defense right, get a couple more pieces on the offensive line, they're going to be right back there. All right, 15, Rob. It's coming back with the Twitter trending topics, bud.
Say again?
I said it's coming back with the Twitter trending topics, bud.
Privacy simplified.
Rob. We got some cool trending topics today, starting with one I know you're interested in because a certain someone has either come back or is going to come back, the Book of Boba Fett. What do you think?
Yeah, I've been informed that Grogu is going to make an appearance in the Book of Boba Fett, which doesn't surprise me. Because if there's one thing you can trust Disney to do, if they find a character that becomes a hit, they are going to wring that sucker for every cent they can get out of it. Now, I will tell you that I have not started watching the Book of Boba Fett. I am way behind in the Legend of Vox Machina dropped, which I'm all in on right now because I'm a huge, giant dork nerd. But does it fit into the story? Or are they just jamming Grogu in there to get a little more FaceTime with Baby Yoda and sell a few more talking Yodas? I would be willing to bet the latter.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I kind of figured he'd come back too. I haven't started watching it myself, especially with these Disney Plus shows. I'm more on the side of let's wait till it all releases and then I'll just binge watch it as if it's a Netflix show, and then I just take that route. Next thing, two sports ones to finish this off here. Albert Pujols It's
Ooh,
trending.
Albert Pujols is trending. Not entirely sure why old Albert Pujols is trending.
ESPN is doing their all-time baseball players of all time list, and Albert Pujols was ranked the 30th best baseball player of all time. Have to say, Pujols is one of the reasons and the only reasons I used to watch the MLB back in the day. My favorite first baseman of all time.
Pujols at 30. They've got Jeter at 28, A-Rod at 26. I'm interested to see what the rest of the we may break that down a little bit tomorrow. I would say I'd have guessed around 30 for Pujols. Great player, phenomenal slugger. Above average infielder, nothing crazy special with the glove. But hell of a long lasting career. Didn't he just retire this year?
Yeah.
I believe I watched him in elementary school and he just retired. I got no issue with it. That's about where I'd have guessed.
Last one, and this one piqued my interest. You know I'm an NBA guy, Rob. Bradley Beal is finally willing to waive his no-trade clause. Can you take, or not a no-trade clause, he's finally willing to be traded away from Washington. To where, and do you agree with it if you know where?
I really don't know. I'm interested to see at this point, like if you're, and this is one thing I'm always curious about when you have a player that's had a fight with a club like Bradley Beal has had. If you're another club, there's a line where you go, too much drama, right? I'm worried he's going to show up and do the same thing here, especially considering Beal is likely only going to accept a trade to a contender, right? Like he's not going to want to go toil away in New Orleans again.
It seems as if the Sixers are willing to deal Ben Simmons if it is in fact
if
for
I was
Bradley
the
Beal.
Sixers, I would be calling every team and going, I'll give you anybody for take Ben Simmons and I'll take anybody. All right, that's going to do it for us. Diesel and Mark Ryan are up. Thanks to Owen for sitting in last minute. We'll see you guys back here tomorrow to do it all over again on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate. Later, brother.
This is SportsCenter.
Actually, you know what? Do me a favor. Stop me right corner. Whoa.